It only gets up to 89 degrees. Coming up next, it's Inside Sources with Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson here on KSL.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
9 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. We're monitoring what appears to be a fire in the Tibble Fork area of American Fork Canyon. UDOT sent out a message saying the fire is affecting both directions of the road on SR 144. We'll pass along more details as they become available. Harriman has closed the Black Ridge Reservoir while they wait for tests to see if the algae in the water is harmful. The reservoir gets its water from Utah Lake, which does have a dangerous algal bloom right now. Utah Lake Authority's Kelly O'Cannon O'Day tells KSL TV exposure to harmful blooms can cause a rash or an upset stomach if swallowed. It can also be fatal for dogs. She says they're working to reduce the blooms.
People are still upset, the lake still has harmful algal blooms. It has it for a much, much shorter window than it used to be. Most of the year, they are not a problem.
Cannon O'Day says in lakes with blooms, paddleboarding or kayaking is fine, but wave runners disturb too much water. And if you're fishing, be sure to thoroughly clean your catch. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. It's been 1 month since the devastating flash floods in Texas. Residents, business owners, and elected officials in the Texas Hill Country are moving ahead with the massive job of cleanup and recovery.
One early estimate puts total losses from the flooding at between $18 and $22 billion. Then there are the indirect costs. Kerr County Sheriff Larry Letha is seeking funding to hire a new detective.
We've already seen a slight increase in some crime, and we actually got our first fraud case. We're going to be working with the Attorney General's office.
In some remote communities alongside the Guadalupe River, the cleanup has barely started 1 month after the flood. Jim Ryan, ABC News, Dallas.
Your money at this moment, the Dow up 466 points, a full percent to 44,055. Coming up, emergency traffic along 215 South Belt and another near 100-degree temperature coming up today. Traffic and weather together is next.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM. Andy, my husband and I had Bedrock Quartz redo 3 bathrooms for us, 2 in the old house and 1 in the new house. And I loved working with them for so many reasons. One of which is that they're like a 4-generation family-owned business here in Utah that has been installing countertops and making beautiful kitchens and bathrooms for years and years.
Well, at my house, I suffer from what's called paralysis of choice. When you've got something as wide-ranging with the different types of counters that they offer with quartz, quartzite, I didn't even know what the difference between those things are. I'm going to need that kind of help when I go through the process.
Oh, they have wonderful designers. Plus, when you go in their showrooms, it's super easy. At station number 1, you select your color and your material. Then you go to station number 2. And you pick out your backsplash, and then you go to number 3, and you select your faucets. It's so easy to do.
They've got what's called employee pricing for everyone. This is the first time they've ever offered this.
For the month of July through August, everyone gets the friends and family discount.
They've got 9 locations near you from Layton to St. George, including a new one in Salt Lake City. BedrockQuartz.com. That's BedrockQuartz.com.
Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T?
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again. At work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text ALL to 321-321 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast. Absolutely free. Text ALL to 321-321. That's ALL to 321-321.
Comcast Business High Five Hotline. What's the state of your excitement?
I signed my business up for the 5-year price lock guarantee, and I can't stop high-fiving people. High five!
Okay, deep breath.
High five.
You're in a good place. You signed your business up for 5 years of gig speed internet and advanced security, all on our ultra-reliable network.
Gig speeds and advanced and security? I'm so stoked.
Yep, and you get it at a great rate that's locked in for 5 years.
Woo!
The high five is just your body's way of saying, I'm winning.
So this is natural.
High-fiving everyone you see in a state of business savings enthusiasm? Totally natural.
Sweet. Thank you. Thank you. High five, everybody. High five.
The Comcast Business 5-year price lock guarantee is back, but only for a limited time, so sign your business up today.
High five.
Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
Ends 9/21/25 for new customers with qualifying bundle. Current customers may be eligible depending on services and area. Guaranteed rate applies to monthly service charge, excluding taxes and fees. Other restrictions apply.
Emergency traffic on KSL News Radio, brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account. Here's Heather Kelly.
Well, we have 3 miles of nearly stopped traffic eastbound I-215. It starts at the I-15 South interchange in Murray, heading east toward Cottonwood Heights at the Highland Drive exit. It's due to a multi-vehicle crash blocking 2 right lanes of the freeway. So you're definitely going to want to take an alternate route if you typically merge from I-15 onto I-215, exit at either 7200 or 53rd South in Murray. We're also seeing the backups on the transition ramp from I-15 to go eastbound I-215, so everything is starting to get really bad in that area. Otherwise, things are looking good on I-15 itself. Just a few brake lights remain trying to get into downtown Salt Lake City, both northbound and southbound. When you take UTA, you can just about do anything while you ride. You won't even notice all the traffic you're missing. Plan your trip at rideuta.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Of KSL weather, today we'll see it'll be sunny, but we'll see some clouds this afternoon. Expect patchy smoke as well. Highs will be in the mid-90s. Right now it is sunny and 79 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Americans are stressed out about groceries in numbers that might surprise you. A new poll by the Associated Press shows that about half of all Americans say the cost of groceries is a major source of stress in their life right now. That is to say, half say it's a major source of stress, 33% say it's a minor source of distress, and only 14%, Holly, say it's not a source of distress.
That's a lot, right? That's a lot of people who are stressed about the cost of groceries. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. But I would like to hear from our listeners. If you can text us at 57500, have rising grocery prices changed how you shop and how you eat? Text us how you've adjusted, because we're interested in knowing. So one of the things that stood out to me with this one is if you take those two combined, right, you're looking at over 80% of people who say groceries are the rising cost of groceries are stressful.
Yeah, and maybe I'm naive, but you would expect in America in 2025 that groceries, of all things, food, should not be a major source of distress. I mean, I can understand we've got people, we're seeing individuals in Gaza and places all over the planet that are just in horrible straits. But in America, you would think that we're the land of plenty. I mean, and we're not. I know that's very naive, and I don't mean to say it in that way. But it makes me sad to think that a major percentage of Americans find that that's a source of distress.
Yeah, and groceries are a necessity, right? And I have volunteered with a local food pantry before, and when I did, I learned that even in Utah, we have like 1 in 5 people are at least food insecure, meaning they don't know for sure where their next healthy meal is going to come from. And so I know it's an issue. I know even in affluent areas, you have households that can't afford to buy groceries. So then you start to have questions like, well, do I get medication or do I feed my family? One of the stories, personal stories in the Associated Press article about this that really struck me is there was an older woman. She's in her late 70s. She lives up in Washington State. She says groceries are only a minor source of stress to her, but that's because local food banks fill the gap. She doesn't actually have enough money to buy enough groceries for herself, so she goes to her local food bank.
Yeah, and a lot of Americans also are doing what they call buy now, pay later. 4 in 10 Americans under the age of 45 said they've used that when buying groceries and other essentials, like medical care. I mean, I don't know what they mean by buy now, pay later.
So,
to me, that seems like a credit card. It's on its face.
It's kind of like that. It's like layaway. So if you remember from back in the day, you could buy your kid's Christmas present, and from the store would let you do that. Sometimes they still do, but you would make certain payments over time, and as long as you just didn't miss a payment, there was no credit, no interest applied, right? So what this is there are apps now that you can sign up, and the apps will basically cover the cost, and you say, well, I'm going to pay, this expense over these 4 payments. But one of the things that is striking about this is people are starting to pay for groceries. I mean, I can understand you're paying for maybe larger payments and you've got to spread out the payments, but when you're starting to put groceries on a buy now, pay later app, that's concerning to me.
When I purchase groceries, and maybe just because I'm tight, I often look at generic brands.
Sure.
It drives my wife crazy, but I don't find them to be different or noticeably different. And in fact, once you open the can and serve it, I'm not sure she knows what I bought. But I do look for those because they're generally cheaper.
Yeah. So do you remember back in the day when they first started doing generic brands, they used to be black and white labels, remember?
Right. Yeah. Right.
Now we call them store brands. So you can get this off label, whatever. And there are places. So when we were raising our family, of course, groceries were a huge concern, and we still have 6 people living at home besides my husband and myself, so 8 people at home. But it was a big concern. And so one of the things that we did to be able to feed a large family is I cooked from scratch largely. Sometimes I would buy macaroni and cheese, but generic macaroni and cheese in a box that was like $0.25 for a box. And I would make 8 boxes at a time and add some hot dogs to really kind of, do a cheap-ish meal. That's one of the issues, too, is you start to look at how do you save costs. The foods that cost the least are probably the heaviest in carbs and the least healthy for you.
Right. You can also buy in bulk, and a lot of people do that. Yep. You go to some of the bigger I won't call them box stores, but you know what I mean, the Costco type places, and buy a lot. The problem with that for me is that we're a household of 2, so often it's not practical to get the big size of meat or something like that, because we simply can't keep it that long unless we had a freezer the size of our garage.
Right.
You know what I mean? So for you, it works out great because you've always got a family.
Right.
You've also always got a small army in your house.
A small army, yeah.
And you're trying to live through that. But, I mean, I don't know what and this will sound awfully naive, what a monthly expenditure for groceries should be for a family of 2, 4, 6, 8. But I imagine that it's several $100s no matter what you're looking at.
Yeah, that's a good question. And, some of it depends on your food choices, right? So, again, when I say we cooked from scratch, when I see someone in here in the article who's of the younger generation and say he has to cut back, and so he's going to buy Hot Pockets and ready to serve, TV dinners, those were never things that were on our menu.
Right, and they're not as healthy. Let's face it, that's not as healthy as fresh vegetables, fresh fruit, those kind of things, which can often, cost a little bit more if you're buying things that way. But I mean, I don't know what you would hope that we're doing more in this country to help people with that, to get food, but it seems like maybe we're doing just the opposite.
Look, one of the issues, I think it's one of the big issues we talk about is you can't necessarily rely on having the food banks step up and say, hey, we're going to fill the gaps for all these places, because they're under stress as well, right? They're struggling too. So we actually have some few texts, and I have to say this one is really striking. This texter says they have to work overtime now to start being able to pay for groceries.
Yeah, I mean that's tragic. I mean, I understand. Another one says, yes, the price of groceries is a problem. I would say that we probably eat out more in my family because it feels like the cost of eating out is much more than buying
also
groceries.
Surprising.
Yeah.
Right. Also surprising. Yeah. So I know when we had, again, raising our family, our big family, we also had, diapers and formula for, it felt like forever. So I don't know if people include that in the price of groceries, or because I, would buy them at the same place, or if it's just food. But just food, right, for feeding a family can really start to add up.
Yeah. Grocery prices have continued to rise. We have, we talked about eggs, we talked about various things that over the course of the last couple of years that have gone up and down. It seems like it's causing a lot of stress with Americans in ways that I think surprise some of us.
Yeah, we'll revisit that a little later in the show. Look, I'm sure you've heard of the old saying, don't shoot the messenger. Well, some people are saying that is exactly what happened when President Trump fired the director of the Bureau of Labor Statistics when a weaker than expected jobs report came out on Friday. Stay with us. We'll be back after the break.
Behind the curtain of Utah and Washington politics.
It seems like the federal government is now saying to the states, you have much more control of your destiny.
And expanded inside sources.
And so our legislature is trying to figure out what their boundaries are.
Well, even like FEMA, right?
Yes.
Wildfire disasters.
The all-new Inside Sources.
If we have to pay for it all of ourselves, can we afford that as a state?
Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson, now on 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Mountain America. This is for I-215 eastbound. Traffic is at a crawl, barely moving as you approach the State Street area and head east over into Cottonwood Heights. It's due to a crash blocking 2 right lanes of the freeway. Everybody's having to use 2 left lanes, so you're definitely going to find alternate routes if you usually transition from I-15 onto the I-215 East Belt. Wasatch Front businesses and property managers, GoPave Utah provides all asphalt repairs for your parking. For patching and paving along the Wasatch Front, contact GoPave Utah. GoPaveUtah.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Hey, this is Maria Chaleos, and I am here with Blair. He's also a client of Salt Lake City Fat Loss. Thanks for coming in.
Pleasure to be here.
So great to see you. So how much weight have you lost?
I've lost an amazing 52 pounds in just 60 days.
That's incredible. How do you feel?
Oh, I feel great. I have more energy, and the GERD and acid reflux is gone.
Talk about the scale for a minute. Were you surprised at how quickly the number went down?
It was astonishing to me as I'd get on the scale, even in the very beginning when I saw, 2-3 pounds drop off. But I ended up looking forward to getting on the scale to see how much I'd lost in the last day.
Tell me about the biggest benefits you've seen from Salt Lake City Fat Loss.
I have much more confidence in myself, lots more energy, much more adventurous walks with my dogs.
Thanks so much for sharing another great success story with Salt Lake City Fat Loss. Learn the secret of losing up to 1 pound of unhealthy fat per day online at slcfatloss.com. slcfatloss.com.
Results may vary.
You've built the dream, the home, the lifestyle, the legacy. Now it's time your windows and doors reflect that same $1 million standard. Whether you're designing a stunning custom home or upgrading the one you've loved for years, Peach Doors and Windows is here to bring that vision to life with precision, style, and craftsmanship.
The Peach specialty? High-end custom windows and doors that don't just fit your space, they elevate it. From sleek modern lines to timeless elegant finishes, they offer the kinds of craftsmanship that truly complements a $1 million space. And with Peach, the process is easy. No pressure, no gimmicks, just knowledgeable experts helping you find solutions to turn your someday project into right now.
Visit their spacious showroom, get inspired, and create something beautiful together. Peach Doors and Windows for the $1 million home you live in and the $1 million feeling you deserve. Visit peachdoorsandwindows.com or call 801-566-1255 today.
That's Peach Windows and Doors. Give them a call, 801-566-1255.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with a Capital One Saver card, so let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything! The Capital One Saver card is at table 27 and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu!
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Lowe's knows when you're looking for reliability, the right brand makes all the difference. And now, Lowe's is the exclusive home improvement retailer for the Whirlpool water treatment line, including their Wi-Fi softener, under-sink filtration system, and more. With Whirlpool's proven performance and our everyday low prices, better tasting, better quality water is within reach. Shop pro-trusted brands like Whirlpool and more, in-store or online. Lowe's, we help, you save.
Get Mr. Mac's Performance Missionary Package. Includes 1 performance suit, 4 head collar stretch shirts, 3 ties, 1 mission belt, 1 pair of Echo or Johnston & Murphy shoes. All for just $695 at Mr. Mac.
The new Inside Sources.
So shooting the messenger, right, is really meant to say, look, if somebody gives you bad news, you're not supposed to fire them. So that we had a weaker than expected jobs report come out on Friday, and a couple of hours later, President Trump fired the director of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, saying that she had deliberately rigged the numbers to make him look bad. So we actually have ABC News senior White House correspondent who talked about this on ABC Start Here podcast.
Economy, because it provides the critical data, not just around jobs, but also around inflation, other key metrics that underpins the decisions that policymakers, investors, and businesses make. And in speaking to experts, they're concerned that by doing this, the president could be trying to manipulate the numbers to make him look good, or he nominates a replacement who is unqualified for that position.
So according to the Associated Press, Holly, Friday's jobs report showed that 73,000 jobs were added last month and that 258,000 fewer jobs were created in May and June than previously estimated. Now, like you said, she's just the messenger. Mm-hmm. The report suggested that the economy has sharply weakened during Trump's tenure, a pattern consistent with a slowdown in economic growth during the first half of the year and an increase in inflation during June that appeared to reflect the price pressures created by the president's tariffs. Now, that's according to the Associated Press. So she, like you say, comes out and issues this jobs report. He's disappointed, saying, well, you're just trying to make me look bad because you're appointed by a Democrat, and the the Democrats want me to look bad, so he fires her.
Yeah, and this issue, it shouldn't be a partisan issue, right? So this particular person was appointed by Joe Biden, but her predecessor was appointed by President Trump himself, and he has come out over the weekend speaking up in support of the job that the Labor Statistics Bureau does. This is not something she did by herself, right? They have a team of economists that come together, they pull these numbers, and we'll talk to an economist later in the show, but about how this data is gathered. And he, again, the person who was the previous person said, look, this is not a political position. You have to be able to trust the people that are in these places, because exactly what you said, if you undermine confidence in this, how do you trust any numbers coming out again if you're trying to find somebody who is loyal to the president, quote unquote?
And all she's really doing is reading numbers.
That's right.
I mean, she's saying, okay, here are the jobs numbers. We wait for those every month, and we sort of, you can always tell when that statistic is about to be released.
Right.
Hey, we're going to get the jobs report.
Right.
It's not as good as you'd expect. 73,000 new jobs is nothing bad, but when you're expecting something more than that, I think they were expecting almost twice that number. Yeah, that doesn't look good. But we also learned that in the month of June, I think it was, inflation bumped up a little bit. Mm-hmm. It was at a number that we didn't expect, and so the Fed, in response to that, said, "Well, we're not quite ready to start reducing interest because a little bit higher interest keeps inflation down." And we're just always balancing these things. But a jobs report that's not exactly what you want probably doesn't warrant having this poor woman fired.
Well, and again, you start to look at what does this look like, right? I mean, I've seen memes all weekend, and one was like, today's forecast is for 95 degrees. I don't like it. I'm firing the meteorologist, and I want somebody who will tell me it's going to be 83 degrees.
Right, yes.
Right? So that I mean, it really is a concern. And, again, we're going back to the shifting winds. Just a couple of months ago, probably 3 months ago, the jobs report was positive, and President Trump praised her, right? Just saying this is fantastic news coming out of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and they do such a good job. And if you remember, she had to be confirmed by the Senate. This is a position that is confirmed by the Senate. They typically serve 4 years or so, but the Senate confirmed her 86-8, and
it was overwhelming, right?
Vice President J.D. Vance was among the yay votes, right? And now they're all like, "Oh no, here's this person who's trying to make me look bad."
Right. ABC's Perry Russom has more on how a former commissioner is responding to this move.
William Beach, who was nominated by Trump and led the agency during his first term, condemning the firing of his successor.
He made a claim that the commissioner was instrumental in changing the number. It's impossible for the commissioner to do that. The commissioner does not even see the numbers until the numbers are completely done and they're loaded and ready to be distributed.
One Democratic congressman calling the move authoritarian. Perry Russom, ABC News, Washington.
So that was the bureau leader who was appointed by Trump, looking
right.
back and saying, "Wait a minute, this is not right."
That's right.
Like you said at the outset, you're just reading the numbers. You're giving information, getting as much information as you can out.
Yeah. President Trump does say he's going to announce a new statistician sometime this week.
We'll be announcing a new statistician sometime over the next 3-4 days.
And I don't know. So do you pick someone that's going to give rosy numbers all the time, or someone that's going to tell the truth? I mean, and I know that's a horrible thing to say, but that seems to be what we're looking at here is, hey.
That's the concern for sure.
And the whole premise of this segment, as you introduced it at the end, is shooting the messenger. Makes no sense. I don't know that the American public is going to look at this as something that makes a lot of sense in terms of what's going on, because numbers are the numbers. The job growth is the job growth.
We know they're circling the wagons, though, and we'll have a chance to revisit this.
Right. It's another thing is we look at these numbers. The economy is still fairly strong. I mean, we're not doing poorly in this country right now. The Dow seems to be doing fairly well. Job numbers maybe not what you might expect, but not bad either. I mean, we're getting some good results. So I think Trump should take his wins and run with it instead of taking something that's not necessarily positive and firing the messenger.
Yeah, I mean, there are economists that are starting to say, look, there are some signs of a weakening economy. The jobs report is one of them, right? You've got some leading indicators that there are some things. And I think the rising grocery prices can be considered one of those where people are starting to be concerned that they can't even make ends meet. In fact, we had a texter back to the previous segment right as we were going to break, but to tell us that they have a 71-year-old mother who is really struggling to make ends meet, and now she is now living with the texter, but they wondered, how is this impacting seniors on a fixed income when the prices continue to rise?
Yeah, a lot of Trump's anger seems to be on some of the revisions that her agency made. Job gains in May were revised down to just 19,000 from a previously revised 125,000. That's a significant cut. And for June, they were cut to 14,000 from 147,000. Both of these are basically in the less than 20%. In July, 73,000 positions were added.
Yeah.
Employment is still at a low 4.2%, although it trickled up a tiny bit from 4.1%. Those are not bad numbers. They're just not the numbers we want.
Right.
If you think we've got the strongest economy on the planet.
Well, we don't. But
right.
So people want to know, well, why were these numbers revised? And we'll talk to our economist. He's a professor of economics. And it's something that's actually pretty normal. Like, it happens. So these are based on reports, and the reports have to come from companies, and companies are starting to become slower and slower at sending in their reports. And so they do what they have at the time for their best knowledge, right? And then as additional information comes back, they do have to revise those numbers because they have more data.
But those numbers, those are surprising revisits of numbers, revisitation. June, they report 147,000 jobs. They revise it to 14,000.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just not an oversight. I mean, they were estimating something that wasn't there. It may, 125,000 new jobs. Well, it was really 19,000.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the Republicans' concern, right? Is like, well, you're just changing the numbers now to make us look bad. So I don't know. I can't even come up with a reason why they would be positive at the beginning and then change to look bad 2 months later. That doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, it says every single jobs report includes revisions to the prior 2 months figures. So you just figure. So when you have September's jobs report for August, it will include revisions for July and August.
Yeah, and Trump, in sort of voicing his anger toward this woman, says no one can be that wrong. We need accurate jobs numbers. She will be replaced with someone much more competent and qualified. Important numbers like this must be fair and accurate. They can't be manipulated for political purposes. And his own former jobs director said
they can't be manipulated.
They can't manipulate. The numbers are the numbers.
And then it's not. She's very well qualified. This is a political removal, and I personally think it's an example of shooting the messenger. And but she's out of a job, and she will be replaced sometime this week. We'll see who it is, I guess.
Yeah, that's sad. And we will be revisiting this later on in the show this morning. But when we come back, we're going to talk about Utah death row inmate that we talk about far too often. Ralph Menzies, scheduled to die by firing squad in just over a month, I think the first week of September. But now a 4-day commutation hearing has been scheduled. We'll talk about what that means and what that looks like. But a family member of the victim, they're frustrated by what's feeling like just another delay when we come back. 9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top local story this hour. A man has died while trying to break a speed record at the Bonneville Salt Flats over the weekend. KSL News Radio's Adam Small has details.
Officials say 60-year-old Chris Roski was attempting a speed record when he lost control of his vehicle at the 2.5-mile mark. We're told medical professionals treated him at the scene, but he passed away from his injuries. We've learned on social media Roski was the driver of the latest version of the Speed Demon, which advertises as the fastest piston engine wheel-driven car in the world. The Speed Demon team posted after the crash saying they are devastated.
The crash is under investigation. Speed Week is expected to continue as scheduled at the Salt Flats today. A glider pilot is dead after a crash at Mahogany Mountain this weekend. It was above the Bowman Ranch in Mountain Green. Very little is known about the pilot at this time. The crash sparked a fire. Crews responded and worked for about 12 hours putting it out. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The jobs numbers are causing concern about the economy.
Last month, we added just 73,000 jobs, but the real concern is what we now know happened in May and June. The numbers were revised sharply lower. 258,000 fewer jobs were created than previously thought, meaning the pace of job creation is less than half of what it was in 2024 last year. Economists see these numbers as a warning signal that the economy is on thinner ice than we thought.
ABC's chief business correspondent Rebecca Jarvis reporting. Your money at this moment, the Dow's up 465 points to 44,053. Coming up, hot again today. We've also had emergency traffic going into the middle part of the morning. We'll check traffic and weather together next.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Regardless of how old your air conditioner is, there are a few things you can do to help it last as many summers as possible. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and like so many things in our life, it's easy to take our air conditioner for granted. If you keep a clean filter, rinse the outdoor unit off every once in a while, and have it serviced once a summer, you can reduce your risk of unexpected breakdowns. But eventually it will break down. And if someone tells you that your only option is to replace it, don't be afraid to get a second opinion. You could save thousands of dollars repairing it instead of replacing it. Any Hour rarely comes across an air conditioner that just can't be repaired. That doesn't mean you won't choose to replace it anyway, but being told you don't have options, that's not cool. So if you want honest answers and straightforward options, give Any Hour Services a call. And remember, every week this summer, Any Hour Services is giving away an air conditioner to one lucky customer as part of our Coolest Summer Sweepstakes. No purchase is necessary. You can see official rules or schedule your service at anyhour.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
You still have 40 million plus vehicles globally that are driving around with a potential ticking time bomb, a grenade in either their steering wheel or their dashboard. When we look to what injuries may have transpired from a defective airbag, we generally see loss of vision in an eye, or we see facial lacerations. We also see hearing loss. Unfortunately, we started seeing death after death after death. When that passenger airbag exploded, it basically degloved his entire face. He lost his nose, he lost his right eye. The type of catastrophic injuries that one is more accustomed to seeing in a Hollywood movie, and not something from a device in an automobile that's supposed to protect you. Morgan & Morgan has a national reach in terms of handling and prosecuting cases, notwithstanding the team of lawyers that we have collected that focus only on product liability day in and day out.
Morgan & Morgan. Visit us at badairbags.com for an office near you. Prior results do not guarantee a similar outcome.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textingterms.us. Texting enrolls you for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply, stop to opt out.
There's a lot on the line in divorce. This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell, the largest family law firm in the country. When you find yourself facing divorce, you need a partner you can count on.
Connect with a local divorce attorney today. Text Office 44 to 32 32 32. Office 44 to 32 32 32. CordellCordell.com.
Emergency traffic on KSL News Radio, brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account. Here's Heather Kelly.
Well, this is for an accident on I-215 eastbound just before you get to the Highland Drive exit in Cottonwood Heights. Now, it's a multi-vehicle crash. All the vehicles have now been moved over to the right shoulder, and I think some emergency vehicles might still be blocking a right lane, but that's a lot better than the two right lanes that were closed just a few minutes ago. So traffic is finally starting to ease up if you're coming from State Street over to the Highland Drive exit. So hopefully within a few minutes, traffic will start moving a lot better. You've got good speeds on I-15 for the most part. If you're northbound I-15, there's a little bit of slowing as you try to transition onto eastbound I-80 towards State Street. Other than that, everything else is looking good. Common Spirit hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advanced healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with Human Kindness is here. Hello, Human Kindness. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today will be sunny, but we'll see some clouds this afternoon. Expect patchy smoke as well. Highs in the mid-90s. Looking for a high of 97 today. Right now it's 84 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
A man who's been on Utah's death row for nearly 40 years, Holly, will have a commutation hearing starting August 7th, and that hearing is scheduled to go August 7th, 13th, 14th, and 15th. The Utah Board of Pardons will hear testimony during those 4 days to decide whether or not to commute his sentence. Now, this is an individual who is convicted of a crime, a brutal murder of Maureen Hunsaker. That occurred almost exactly 40 years ago. He's been in prison, and he's been on death row that entire time. Since then, the current execution date is scheduled for the first week of September. I think it's September 5th. His attorneys have argued over and over that he is incompetent, that he has some mental breakdown, some forms of dementia that would make it so that it's not appropriate to execute him. And they've been through the court system. They've been up to the appeals courts. And so far, the judges have held against him and said, no, he is competent, he does understand what's going on, and the execution should go forward. The family is concerned, the victim's family is concerned, that the Utah Board of Pardons and Parole are hearing this testimony because, ironically, he was out on parole when this homicide occurred. So they're understandably a little bit suspect of the Utah Board of Pardons because, if you think about it, they had released him once before. Now, releasing isn't on the table.
Right.
There's no chance he's going to be released. The commutation is to decide a singular issue, in my opinion, and that is, should the death penalty be commuted in favor of life in prison without the possibility of parole?
Right, but it's got to be frustrating to the families. And in fact, we have Matt Hunsaker. He's the son of Maureen. And thanks for joining us today, Matt.
Good morning.
It sounds to me like it is just got to be so frustrating to feel like you're getting close to finally having some resolution on this case. And then now, does it feel like you're kind of back in the mix?
Yeah. One thing I want to start off with is, Greg, you've been a defense attorney forever, correct?
Yes, sir. I was a prosecutor for 8 years too. But
you
yes.
made a comment about that he won't get released. Can you tell me, guarantee me, with knowing the system that it is, if his sentence was commuted, could you guarantee me he will never get out of prison?
No, sir, and that's a very fair question. It truly is a very fair question because at the time he was convicted, Matt, the idea of life in prison without the possibility of parole was not on the table. So, no, I appreciate that question. I can say this, that in my 43 years of practicing law, I have never seen a person in this situation paroled. But to answer your question, no one can guarantee that. You're exactly right.
And it stems from, like you said, if they do go back and commute it to life without the possibility of parole, are we just adding more appeals? Because then can he not appeal the fact that, well, wait a minute, the life without the possibility of parole wasn't on the table when I was sentenced to death. So now, potentially, can this not just create another set of drama for us to go through another 10 years until he either is dead in prison or he gets out?
Yes, sir, it can. And that's unfair to you, and it's unfair to your family, and it's unfair to the system that you've been living this for 40 years. I would say this, that I like you said, I've been a part of the system for many years. I was a prosecutor at about the time that he was convicted, although I wasn't involved in the case, and have seen what happens in cases like this. I think the Board of Pardons and our courts try to do what they can, Matt, to make sure that people are treated fairly. But your mother wasn't treated fairly at all. And I can completely understand how you feel.
And, again, this is not an attack on you, it's just to give the sense to anybody listening out there that doesn't understand the process, because this process is not something that's just it happens much. It's very rarely happens, and there's a lot of possibilities that could come up. But again, you guys said it right. The same exact board predecessors granted this man mercy and let him out of prison for the crimes that he committed back in the 70s and 80s. And ultimately, during that time, he chose to take my mom's life in a brutal way. And now I'm expected to go before them and beg them to not do this again.
What are you hearing about the nature of this hearing? What is this hearing going to be about? I mean, it's scheduled for 4 days. I can't imagine it would take that long.
So a little bit of an update on that. The 7th is now been canceled. The board had scheduled the 7th so me and my family could come in and speak, because maybe you've heard or not, I'm not able to attend the hearing because they chose to schedule it even after I've asked them not to schedule it when I unfortunately can be out of town for work. So that's a very difficult thing for me to choose between taking care of my family or attending this. But the 3-day hearing that's next week, what my understanding is that they're basically going to go in and argue the same thing that they're argued for Judge Bates, and that they will argue in front of the Supreme Court that he is incompetent, that he doesn't understand, and so forth. But again, everybody's up to their interpretation of this, of whether he should be executed or not. And me and my family stand by the fact that there's been nothing presented that he is not capable of understanding what's going on.
Yeah, Matt, that's the state's argument, is that he is capable. And I understand from a previous KSL article that the Board of Pardons will not consider his competency. They feel like that issue has been addressed. Is that your understanding, or is that actually going to be on the table?
I was never informed of what they're going to contemplate or not. I don't read articles during these heavy times, because a lot of the times things can get misdirected or misunderstood, and the sensitivity of the subjects. I was never informed what they're going to be, so I'm only going by what I know, that they have the option to submit whatever witnesses they have to say for whatever reasons that they don't believe that But I just want to be clear 100% here. This man has not come out and admitted that he killed my mom. He's now asking for life without parole. Would this be a different situation had he come out and admitted this? He still contends that he didn't do it. So granting him mercy when he can't even admit that he did this is ridiculous.
Matt, we spend a lot of time with these situations talking about the killer. Can you tell our listeners anything about your mother that maybe they don't know?
She's an amazing woman. There's never going to be a woman in my life or in my eyes that can compare to her. I was her focus. She had 2 other young kids. My little sister was 5 months old. My little brother was 1.5 years. And I know for a fact, looking back, that we were everything to her. And she worked hard. She took care of us. She was very involved in our lives. She was involved in my sports as a young kid. It's a travesty what has happened, what was taken away from us. My little sister's never going to know anything about her but the stories. And she just was a great woman. She didn't deserve, honestly, what happened to her.
Matt, I think when we had you on before, you mentioned that she would have become a great-grandmother just recently. Is that right?
Yeah. We just added a new member of our family. My oldest son had a little baby girl. She's adorable. It's like it's always been kind of put out there. As we're fighting to get this man executed, we brought a beautiful thing into this world to our family, and it's unfortunate she didn't get to share her great-grandchild, but I know that she would have just doted over this little girl.
We will continue following this. Thank you for joining us, Matt. That was Matt Hunsicker, the son of Maureen Hunsicker, who was killed by Ralph Menzies.
And when we come back, we want to continue our conversation about crime victims in Utah, how they're often left out in the dark, and what improvements can be made on the way. The law has changed, but it still has room for error, and Matt Hunsicker helped us understand that a little bit. That's coming up next. Remember, you can stream us live at kslnewsradio.com and on the app for KSL News Radio, sponsored by @YourServicePros.
3 days only, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Save thousands on hot tubs and swim spas. 2 area locations, Salt Lake at Southtown Mall in the Big White Tent, and St. George at Washington County Legacy Park. Major manufacturers liquidation of new 2025 spas, discounted up to 40 to 80%. We have spas to fit any backyard or budget. Free professional delivery, instant on-site financing. 2 area locations, Salt Lake at Southtown Mall in the Big White Tent, and St. George at Washington County Legacy Park. Transform your backyard with a swim spa for the fraction of the price of a pool. The easiest way to exercise or relax in your backyard. Just fill and chill. Shockingly low monthly payments. Don't miss this opportunity to build the backyard of your dreams. See the latest models in person. 3 days only, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 2 area locations, Salt Lake at Southtown Mall in the Big White Tent, and St. George at Washington County Legacy Park. Learn more online at hottubandSwimSpaSale.com. hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today. 1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Donate your car today at carsforkids.org. That's cars with a K. Your car, running or not, can be picked up as soon as the next day. You'll get a maximum tax deduction and a vacation voucher.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Now accepting donations of land, homes, buildings, or any kind of real estate.
If you need new windows and you live in Utah, there's only one choice. There are other window companies, but they're more expensive, and their windows aren't made in Utah for Utah's ever-changing climate. Advanced Window Products has been building state-of-the-art windows right here in Salt Lake for 39 years. And since they're the factory, they cut out the middleman, and you save 30, even 40% on new windows. Plus, right now, as they book for fall, Advanced Windows will give you $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. They build the windows, install the windows, and guarantee them for life. And since they're right here in Utah, if you have a problem years from now, just call them. They'll come over. Advanced Windows offers 0% financing, buy now, pay later. They're affordable. Get your new windows and get the energy savings before we get to winter. $2,500 off. Call them, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindows.com.
Did you hear? A recent stash of $10 gold Liberty coins from the 1800s has been found. These gorgeous gold coins are as bright and shiny as the day they were struck in the late 1800s, and less than 200 of these gold coins are available. Coin experts are calling this gold find an incredible opportunity. Call 1-800-917-4635, and you are guaranteed a $10 gold Liberty coin minted by the U.S. Mint in the 1800s. But with extremely limited availability, you must call now. These gold Liberty coins coins from the 1800s are still in uncirculated condition. That is history you can hold in your hand. To learn more, call 1-800-917-4635. Call now and you'll receive a free American Coin Collector's Bonus Package, a $40 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-917-4635 now to secure your $10 Gold Liberty coins dated from the 1800s before they sell out. That's 1-800-917-4635.
Inside Sources.
You know, in our criminal justice system, we often think about the victim as being a party to the offense, victim as being someone who is part of the lawsuit. And in the civil cases, you have John Doe versus Jane Doe, or whoever it happens to be. But in criminal cases, if you look at the pleadings, if you look at the documents that are filed, it's the state of Utah against the accused. And victims are often looked at as not necessarily a party. I mean, a lot of times a victim will say, well, my attorney, who is they think is the prosecutor, told me this or that. And I think, and I was a prosecutor for 8 years, so I completely understand that. In fact, I worked with the Special Victims Unit. You do sort of feel as a prosecutor like you're the attorney for the victim, but really you're the attorney for the state of Utah. And so, you know, Utah did pass a Victims' Rights Act in 1987, and they were trying to make it seem, Holly, as though that we should treat victims the same as we treat the accused, that we treat victims and give them the same privileges and rights that we give an accused. And then we passed the Victims' Rights Amendment, which we call now the Victims' Bill of Rights, in 1994. All this was during the time I was a prosecuting attorney. And I remember these Victims' Bill of Rights coming into effect during that time and recognizing that victims had rights that they were now codified, that we actually put them in law, that we say a victim has certain rights. But those rights don't include necessarily being able to make the ultimate decision on how a case is handled. And I think that's what causes some frustration with victims. And we just spoke with Matt Hunsaker, the son of Maureen Hunsaker, who was killed by Ralph Menzies 40 years ago, about the fact that, you know, it's sometimes unfair to victims what we do, even today, with how our system works.
Yeah. So you actually just talked about the beginnings of the Victims' Bill of Rights, but Tyler Clancy, Representative Clancy, last legislative session introduced what he wanted to do was bring all of the areas that in law that dealt with victims' rights into one cohesive whole, right? So that people could actually go and find the information. And he said one of the things that was the most frustrating for victims is that they didn't know where to go and look for information. So I saw this story. This is a KSL and Utah Investigative Journalism Project story saying that crime victims are often left in the dark. And one of the stories that was really striking is the one that they started with. And it was a woman who was, I think, sexually assaulted on BYU's campus. And the person who assaulted her, Nathan Fletcher, was charged with groping multiple women in 2014. He entered into a diversion agreement. So maybe you could tell me what that is.
Yeah, diversion agreement simply means that the case is not going to be prosecuted. It's going to be diverted. It's going to put on the back burner. There's no conviction. There's no entry of a plea. It simply means it's a very good resolution for an accused because there's no conviction. You don't even have to admit it.
So it's expunged, but there never was it.
Basically, you say, okay, be good for 2 years and we'll dismiss this case.
Right. Okay, well, his victim had moved. So she had been a freshman at BYU, so she had moved in the meantime, and she got a letter in the snail mail that by the time it found her, the timeline to actually register any kind of objection was almost up. So she did it, and then she never heard anything back. And in 2017, she had this man follow her while she was out jogging and say, wow, it was hard to catch up with you. And it turned out it was her assailant.
Yeah, I mean, I
can't
imagine anything worse.
She had never been notified that he had his entire thing expunged.
Yeah, so today it's required that victims have that right. However, you're right.
But
you
can't find them sometimes.
Yeah, if you can't find them, you can't find them. The state has to notify them. They have to use whatever means they have available to them to try to locate the victim and give them a chance to have input. Now, input is simply that, and I don't mean to demean it at all, but if you're a prosecutor, and I was a prosecutor at, like I say, a special victims unit, we would bring our victims in. We would talk to them in ways we weren't required to do even 10 years earlier when I was a prosecutor. because the Victim's Bill of Rights actually requires that you do that. In fact, if a prosecutor goes to a court and says, we're plea bargaining this case, we're dropping it from A down to B,
Right.
the judge will say, have you consulted the victim? That's something we didn't have 40 years ago.
Mhm.
The judge will say, did you consult the victim? Yes, I did. What did the victim say? Well, they weren't happy about it, but we're moving forward anyway. That's all that you need. The victims don't have the right to veto, but they have the right to be notified. They have the right to be notified. And in fact, I know that a case slips through the cracks like the one you just mentioned, and they happen far too often, but I think we do generally a pretty good job. And most of our law enforcement agencies actually have victims coordinators on staff. Most of our prosecuting agencies have victims coordinators on staff to keep victims notified, to keep them apprised. So even if it's just the defendant has an arraignment where you say guilty or not guilty, victims will get noticed of that. Well, they'll get notified of that, I should say. They'll say, okay, he's having an appearance on, April 10th at 3 o'clock. You're welcome to attend if you want. And they should be able to get that information regularly so that they can track the case.
I think part of it is knowing where to look, right? And if you, this is taking a couple of years to work through the system. So I will tell you, I had one instance where I had my wallet stolen. I was at a public building and getting a copy of a birth certificate and left my wallet behind. I recognized it relatively quickly, went back in, it was gone. I canceled everything right away, but it was months later. I did get a letter in the mail saying, hey, we arrested this guy. He had your driver's license on him and your credit cards. And so we know that, you're a victim here. And exactly what you're saying. Here's when the court case is. And like, I at that point, I didn't really feel like I had the need to stay involved, but it was great that they contacted me. But my address hadn't changed. My phone number hadn't changed. Right. So I was easy to find. I think it's really in those cases where you start to say, what can we do to maybe modernize that, right? What can we do to really, in fact, Tyler Clancy said this, right now people are meeting what he says the letter of the law is. What can we do to meet the spirit of the law?
Yeah, and I don't know what the answer to that is, except to make sure that victims are given an avenue to update their addresses. If there should be a portal within the state of Utah's victims' rights group that says, okay, I'm a victim of this crime. How can people notify me? I've just moved. Here's my new address.
Mm-hmm.
I've just gotten married, and here's my new name. Whatever information you have, so that the state can always find you. That's very important.
Mm-hmm.
I just had a case of a man that I represented years and years ago on a sex crime. He'd completed everything, and we were filing a motion to have him removed from the registry, or actually have his conviction expunged. And the victim did show up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was, 10, 15 years later.
Yeah.
She was notified, and she said to the judge, "Don't do it." And the judge listened to her.
Yeah.
I thought it was very brave on her part that she would come forward so many, many years later when this man was thinking, hey, I think I've served my time. I've done everything. I need to get it off my record. The judge said, no, you're going to keep it on your record for a while.
Yeah. So there is a woman who this article quotes. She works with the Refuge Utah, and they deal with victims of domestic violence. And she says, tech updates are helpful, but she also said she thinks there needs to be a human component as well, right? And then you start to look at, well, how do we do that? She said sometimes it's not safe for a victim to receive a physical letter at home. She said sometimes those updates are not going to tell you what a prosecutor is doing or what they're thinking, right? And they want to be able to help connect the victims with an advocate or the prosecutor or somebody, right, to feel like they really do know what's going on.
Yeah, imagine if you're a victim of a domestic violence situation and you're still in the home with the perpetrator and you're getting mail about your court date. That's got to be awkward. And I think that what they're saying is, why not have a more personal communication, a phone call? A victim advocate who can call me, or I can reach out to that person on a private basis and say, here's what we're thinking about doing about this case. Because let's face it, a lot of our domestic violence situations, the couples do remain together. And
they do.
Yeah. And so it puts one party, the victim, at a tremendous disadvantage in so many ways when they're, when the perpetrator knows that the victim's being consulted and that they know, and that wait a minute, what's going on with this case? Why are you responding to this? I thought you said you were going to let it go, or you were going to help me and try to get this dismissed.
So just in, I don't know, a minute, some potential solutions. We've got the tech updates. What can we do with that? I wonder if there might be some legislative updates as well, just to clarify, right? I mean, sometimes, sometimes the whole political process, all the way down to criminal justice, right? It really is like moving the Titanic. It really is sometimes hard to turn. But we know that we're having improvement with these LAP assessments, which are the lethality assessment protocols being done across the state. We know that there's, of course, we've all gone digital in so many ways, and that we can access information. And it sounds like that's where we're trying to head, is that victims know this is where I can go to find out information. I can put my information in and I can find out what's happening in this case. They just have to know that, right? And then if there can be some follow-up. But there might be some legislation out there maybe.
Yeah, and there could be a fiscal note to that, because you've got to say, okay, we're going to give you a few extra dollars so that you can make sure that victims in your situation are notified.
Yeah.
And notified.
Beyond just the initial contact,
exactly.
right? Yeah.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
And that does take time, it does take money, but it's something that's invaluable to the victims.
When we come back, we're going to talk about how much it costs to go back to school. It's a lot.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. People camping in parts of American Fort Canyon got an unexpected wake-up call this morning after a fire was spotted near Tipple Fork Reservoir. KSL TV's Alex Cabrero was one of those campers.
Started hearing this buzzing sirens, and I just thought it was another camper just, waking up too early, making too much noise. But then you heard over the air horn, over the siren, a police officer saying, "Everybody, you need to evacuate. There's a wildfire. You need to go right now." So you just throw everything you can into your car and you get out of there.
Alex says he couldn't see any flames from his location, but there was a lot of smoke and a lot of firefighters gathering at the reservoir parking lot. The fire is currently listed as being about 1 acre in size. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. A new round of President Trump's tariffs go into effect later this week, with some businesses warning their prices could start going up.
Procter & Gamble just last week raised its prices this month. Best Buy, Walmart, Dollar General, and Mattel have been talking about price increases, some echoing Walmart, which said the prices of imported items could go up, but they would keep prices, quote, as low as we can. They know that customers want to see lower prices.
ABC Chief Business Correspondent Rebecca Jarvis reporting. Well, the threat of tariffs isn't having any effect on the market right now. The Dow's up 484 points to 44,073. Coming up, the winds pick back up today. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time 10:01.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Worried about market losses? If headlines are keeping you up at night, it's time to take control. Hi, I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and I know you've worked hard to save. But in times like these, what if can turn into what now? If you're planning to retire or are in retirement, you need a strategy that helps protect your future. At Trajan Wealth, you can capture market gains, protect your account from losses, and guarantee income for life. Right now, you could receive a bonus of up to 30% or annual growth of up to 10% for retirement income. You heard me right. An upfront bonus of up to 30% or annual growth of up to 10%, all guaranteed to boost your lifetime income in retirement. Don't leave your future to chance. Plan with confidence. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Annuity guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company, DBA, in most states as Trajan Wealth Insurance Solutions.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm, and Chuck McDowell definitely not an attorney. This is Chuck. If someone talked you into buying something really silly and you want to get out of that silly little thing, my advice, get the facts. Call me and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit absolutely free. Inside, you'll learn how timeshare works and all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free exit info kit. 800-486-9600. That's 800-486-9600.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account. Here's Heather Kelly.
We have pretty good speeds now all across the Wasatch Front. No delays on I-15. If you are coming out of Utah County, southbound I-15 does have a bit of slowing from Kaysville to Farmington due to the daily lane restrictions in that area. No problems, though, getting out of Tooele County on SR-36. And crews are still cleaning up a multi-vehicle crash I-215 eastbound just before you get to the Highland Drive exit in Cottonwood Heights, but it's over on the right shoulder and no one's slow through there. No matter the weather, your feet can feel fantastic. Find the Good Feet location nearest you at goodfeet.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, we should see a high today of 97 with the winds getting fairly strong as the day goes on. Tomorrow, we cool off a few degrees to 94. Right now, it is 84 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
So, Greg, I am really focused on back to school because, as you know, we're raising a granddaughter. She's almost 11. She's going into 6th grade. And when we were in the throes of raising the really big family, it was a financial stressor, so much so that sending our kids back to school would cost us more than Christmas.
Yeah, and we're learning that Americans had started shopping their back to school shopping earlier and earlier than in the past. 26% of people started their back to school shopping in early June.
Wow.
That's up from 22% last year, 17% in 2019. And the main reason for that? Tariffs.
Yeah.
People are nervous and afraid that if you don't start buying now and shopping now and getting what you need, you may pay more later when these tariffs all kick in. So that's a level of concern that we haven't experienced in history, at least that I'm aware of, when you consider something as simple and fun as it should be as back to school shopping. I used to love it when I was a kid.
I found it super stressful. So back to school shopping, actually, it's not just back to school shopping, but back to school. And the reason we're talking about it, we're going to do an extended series this week. So several today and then tomorrow and Wednesday. We're hoping to do all week because our school kids start to go back this week. And school districts have different time frames, right? But we have hundreds of thousands of school students who will be going back to school starting this week and ending, I think the last back to school date is the 20th, but most of them will be next week. Anyway, back to school costs include school fees if you're in junior high or high school. They include school lunches, of course, if that can potentially be an issue. They include school clothes for back to school, and they include, of course, school supplies for kids. And that can vary on how much, your family's going to spend. But I was really shocked by this number, that the average K-12 shopper is budgeting $858 this year on average per student, and that's actually down
from 875. Well, those who are spending money on college students are expected to spend $1,326. That's even down from last year. So people are looking at cutting back in part because money is just a little tighter than it has been.
Can you imagine if I spent that much per kid sending back 10 kids to school?
858 ahead. Yeah, that can add up. Economic uncertainty could be driving many consumer decisions in the second half of 2025, including back-to-school shopping. Here's more from ABC's Sherry Preston.
According to a new survey from U.S. News and World Report, 85% of Americans are concerned about higher prices on back-to-school items. Consumers are worried about higher costs, caused in part by the Trump administration's recent tariffs. The Wall Street Journal reporting it's leading people to buy in bulk, clip coupons, and seek out generic items.
And like you said, budget slightly less than they had the year before.
Yeah. So one of the things I'm interested in, again, from our listeners, I want to know if you are sending kids back to school, are you worried about it? And how are you managing the worries about back to school costs? So you can text 57500 and we'll get to those texts this segment and the next also. But one of the things that people are worried about with these tariffs, right, you're talking about things like shoes, handbags, although I don't send my kids to school with handbags, but one of the things with the shoes is that some of them are leather, and again, I don't buy leather shoes for my kids.
Yeah, and clothing costs are expected to rise 37% in the short term. The U.S. imports a large portion of its inexpensive shoes and apparel from China. I think we also learned when we were dealing with these tariffs that Vietnam is a huge importer
That's right.
of shoes.
And clothes and like T-shirts and stuff.
And clothes. So when you figure a 30% tariff, that means the price of those items goes up 30%, which is significant. That's not just a 5% raise or cost of living allowance or something like that. 30% is nearly a third of the cost going up again.
Yeah, our 6th grader is already planning her back to school outfit. It has to be perfect, right? And first day back to school, she's already got this plan. How am I going to do my hair? And she's not even in junior high yet, and she's already doing this, right? The younger generation is like way ahead of the curve, I guess, when it comes to growing up, in such a hurry to grow up. But again, it's a concern for families. And we know in Utah we have access to free and fair public education. But when you start talking about school fees, it doesn't feel very free.
And I remember when my kids each went to college, back to school expenses had a huge bump up because of computers. I mean, I didn't get a computer every year when I was in college.
Right.
Because they didn't have computers when I went to college. Even a calculator was the size of a small typewriter.
Right.
But now, at least my kids, they've convinced us, right or wrong, that they needed a new laptop every other year or every couple of years. You know what I mean? Like, hey,
well, you at
I
least
got to
need
keep up
one
with
for
it.
sure.
Got to keep up
yeah.
with it. Yeah. And so that was a significant cost. Notwithstanding other things like you're talking about with clothing and things like that. Yeah. Because you want your kid, let's face it, to look good the first day of school. You want them to look like
even in college, right?
And see what you got. Yeah, even in college.
Yeah, college expenses too, right? So I know, like, it's only been 3 years since I finished my college adventures. But every year, not only do you have the cost of tuition, but you also have school fees for those classes too. And sometimes you have additional fees just because of what the classes are. So there are some business classes, for example, if you go through MBA programs where you just get like an extra fee because you're going through a very popular program.
Right. And so we're looking at some of the changes people are using or taking into account this year as they go back to school. They're looking to purchase things on prepaid gift cards, sort of buy now, pay later, switching up where they shop and how they shop. They're focused on sales more than they have before. Households with less than $50,000 a year are having to cut back more significantly than others, obviously, which is unfair because they're the ones that can least afford to cut back. But there's some, whether right or wrong, I think a lot of this is a concern about the economy in the future.
Right.
And people going, well, wait a minute, I don't know that I can spend this money because I don't know where I'm going to be a month or two from now.
Yeah. Look, expenses, like even talking about shoes, right? So during the summer, I had one year, one of my teenage boys changed shoe sizes 3 times between the end of one school year and the beginning of the other school year. That's a lot of shoes. And when he came to me the 3rd time and said, Mom, my shoes are too small, I'm like, that can't be true because I just bought you new shoes a month ago. But in fact, his feet had grown. He was hitting that teenage growth spurt. And that really, it really starts adding up for a family, right? When you have to keep going out and getting new shoes. And you can only do so many hand-me-downs, right, before they're just not wearable anymore.
And parents can expect to pay an additional 18.7% on items like computers and electronics than they had in the past. Like you said, shoes, 39% increase on leather costs. Yep. 39%. I mean, if you're buying 3 pair of shoes in a year, that can add up. Clothing costs in the short term, 37% increase because we import so much of it from China, which is facing all by itself a 30% increase.
So one of the things that I do in addition to this role is I do write for the Deseret News. And last week I wrote a piece on ways that people can help locally. So if you feel like there are places you want to donate, every local school district is going to have some ability for you to donate, whether that is paying for school lunch debt or that's contributing to some of the schools that have these teen centers where they need clothing. Or there are places that are like the United Way of Salt Lake City was trying to stuff the bus looking for school supplies for over 10,000 students, right? So that article is on Deseret.com. But there are, again, lots of ways. South Valley Services, which is it's a nonprofit focused on survivors of domestic violence and their children. So they're actually looking for things off of an Amazon wish list. There are locations around the state looking for people who are willing to come and help. Things like food pantries. A lot of the donations have been distributed, not all, but there's always a ongoing need for new school supplies, new backpacks, and even teachers have needs.
Even this is interesting also. 17 states have designated certain times in July and August as when certain items can be purchased tax-free. In other words, back to school, you can purchase things. Utah's not among that group, but that's a pretty interesting stat.
All right,
let's stay on school here. Yeah, all right, Utah, get with it. Here's a number that surprised me. Nearly 20% of public school teachers also work another job just to make ends meet. That's coming up next. Remember, stream us live at kslnewsradio.com and on the app for KSL News Radio, sponsored by At Your Service Pros.
Listen to KSL for the new and traditional content you've always loved. There's the new Inside Sources, expanded from 9 to noon, and new expanded news coverage with Maria Chaleos on midday, noon to 3. And of course, the news and weather from voices you love, mornings and afternoons. Here are new traditions and the familiar ones on KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
You've lived through the pain long enough. The missed meals, covered smiles, the moments you've avoided because of your teeth. If you're living with missing or broken teeth or struggling with dentures, take your life back. Stubbs Dental Implant Center has helped thousands reclaim their health, confidence, and joy with permanent dental implants. What do Stubbs Dental patients say?
I'm no longer in pain, and I can finally be myself again after getting dental implants. I just wish I would have gone to Stubbs Dental sooner.
I was at a denture for 10 years before I got dental implants. My life has completely changed thanks to Stubbs Dental.
You know, I hated looking at myself in the mirror. Getting dental implants from Stubbs Dental has been life-changing.
As a 3-time Best of State winner with over 2,500 5-star Google reviews, Stubbs Dental doesn't just fix teeth, they change lives. Visit StubbsDental.com today to reserve your free consultation. A $350 value, completely free. StubbsDental.com.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Ready to elevate your everyday? Quince has the Luxe Staples Insider Swear By, minus the markup. From 100% European linen styles and 14-karat gold jewelry to gorgeous leather bags and elevated home finds, Quince has it all. And by partnering directly with top artisans and ethical factories, Quince delivers premium quality at half the cost of similar brands. Discover everyday luxury without the markup at Quince. Go to quince.com/styleupgrade for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/styleupgrade.
3 days only, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Save thousands on hot tubs and swim spas. 2 area locations, Salt Lake at Southtown Mall in the Big White Tent, and St. George at Washington County Legacy Park. Major manufacturers liquidation of new 2025 spas, discounted up to 40 to 80%. We have spas to fit any backyard or budget. Free professional delivery, instant on-site financing. 2 area locations, Salt Lake at Southtown Mall in the Big White Tent, and St. George at Washington County Legacy Park. Transform your backyard with a swim spa for the fraction fraction of the price of a pool. The easiest way to exercise or relax in your backyard. Just fill and chill. Shockingly low monthly payments. Don't miss this opportunity to build the backyard of your dreams. See the latest models in person. 3 days only. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 2 area locations. Salt Lake at Southtown Mall in the Big White Tent and St. George at Washington County Legacy Park. Learn more online at hottubandSwimSpaSale.com. hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
People think saving money is hard, but really, it's easy. It's as simple as changing a few spending habits. For free tips on how to save the easy way, check out feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Inside Sources.
A recent study by the Pew Research Center found that 1 in 6 public elementary and secondary school teachers work side hustles. 16 to 17% of public school teachers work side jobs during the summer, 17% during the school year, and that same study found that 51%, over half of public school teachers are not satisfied with how much they are paid. KSL News Radio's Tammy Kikuchi says many are also working multiple jobs.
1 in 6 public elementary and secondary school teachers work side hustles. Some work multiple extra jobs, like Jordan School District music teacher who gets up before dawn to work a sales rep job and rides public transit to work another job on his phone. Another teacher in the Garfield School District says many teachers also work on ranches and in restaurants because, though the district is rural, it's also a very touristy area, which pushes up the cost for their everyday needs. Tammy Kikuchi, KSL News Radio.
So, look, it may seem like that's not a huge number, but when you're talking about meeting your basic needs and you can't do it with your regular full-time job, to me, that's an issue. So I think I've told you before, Greg, we have a daughter that's a school teacher, and she has 2 side jobs. One is kind of related, but she tries to do coaching jobs in different schools than where she's actually teaching, and so she's trying to line that up for this year. And she's also a professional photographer, and so she does that as well, right? So she's trying to find these different ways. She still is living at home with us, and so her expenses are lower, but it's really been a struggle for her to feel like, hey, I'm a new teacher and I can fully adult now when she can't even afford rent.
I'm wondering, Holly, if she's been teaching long enough to remember not that long ago when the legislature gave a fairly significant bump in teacher salaries. At least they advertised it that way. I don't know whether the teachers felt that, but we were losing too many teachers to other states around us, and so the legislature said, well, we need to do something to keep good teachers. But that, to me, that seemed like a fairly significant increase, although they haven't followed up with it very well.
She's only starting her second year, so no, this is before she started teaching. But one of the things with the legislature, remember we've talked about this before, it was tied to these teacher bonuses and increase in salary. Some of it is tied to passing the voucher bill, the Utah Fits All Scholarship, and whether that stays in effect, right? So when we talk about the scholarship that is currently in litigation, if that were to go away, then some of this money would also go away.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. Right. The Utah Fits All
scholarship,
8,000, whatever it was.
Yeah, up to 8,000 per student.
Yeah, per student. Yeah, that could take a bite out of what the tax revenue that would normally go to public education.
Yeah. Yeah, so one of the issues with teachers we know is that, look, there's a really high turnover. I think it's something like 50% in the first 5 years of teaching don't stay teaching. And if you are in the special education field, it's even higher than that. The turnover is even higher. And so the state really is trying to do some things to keep teachers in the classroom. But, there's also demands on the teachers that there haven't been before. And we've talked about this on our show before, but things like not only do you go and teach, but now you have to worry about, are your kids coming in really hungry? Are you have to now deal with behavioral issues. You have to deal with mental health issues. You have to deal with kids who are on their phone, although that's going to be an issue we'll talk about tomorrow, the bans on phones. Right. But there's all these things that teachers now do in addition to teaching, right, that can really make it tough.
Yeah, and make it difficult for them in other ways. We're talking about a Pew Research Center survey that found the number of teachers that are working part-time gigs. That same study found that on average, teachers earned $3,550 in the year 2020 to 2021 on non-school summer jobs, which was about 5% of their total income. They earned more from non-school jobs during the school year. So more teachers were working during the school year to supplement their income than during the summer. And
but again, that's 3 months versus 9 months, so that makes sense to me.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just sad that in this day and age that our teachers have to do that. You hope that they could take some time off in the summer and gear up and recharge the batteries.
Again, bless these teachers. So I also know, so this is in the article that I wrote about being able to help students. You can also help teachers because there are adopt a classroom opportunities, of course, both formal and informal, but there are teacher wish lists that you can find on Amazon. There are platforms. One is called Donors Choose. One is called Teachers Lists. There's other platforms as well that you can find where teachers actually put up their wish lists. So my daughter does teach art classes, and she puts up wish lists for art supplies so that she can get enough for all of her students in her classroom.
Yeah, we all remember teachers when we were in grade school, at junior high and high school, who changed our lives, who were as sort of instrumental in how we grew up and what we did as anything else. And then you look back and think that teacher was working for next to nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially when I was a kid. And even today, based on where the rest of Americans are financially, we clearly underpay our teachers. And I don't know that that's going to change anytime soon. The legislature seems to have taken it a little more seriously, but they change your life in ways that you'll remember the rest of your life.
Yeah, and there are school districts too that are trying to really make it appealing for starting teachers. I think there's at least one school district in Utah where starting pay for teachers, certified teachers, is $60,000 a year, which doesn't sound horrible until you remember that the average home price is almost $600,000. So that can be an issue. But remember a conversation we had with Ogden City, and they're trying to make housing affordable for people, including teachers, so that they can live and work in the same location.
Right. We're looking at these numbers. 1 in 6 teachers work part-time gigs, second jobs during the summer. A slightly higher number during the school year. This is much higher than average U.S. worker, which is 16% of teachers work second gigs. 4.6% of U.S. workers 20 and older work part-time gigs. So 4 times as many teachers are having to supplement their incomes as the average U.S. worker, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's a significant number. 4 times more teachers having to get second jobs than the average American worker.
Yeah, and again, it's one of the issues that plays into turnover. It's not the only issue, but it is definitely a significant issue with the high teacher turnover, right? So we know that teachers really, I think that it's a labor of love, right? The people who decide to go into teaching as a profession, it can really be a labor of love. And I am grateful for the teachers that my kids had over the years. I remember kindergarten teachers, right, who were you got to work with these little 5-year-olds, and some of them are not reading yet. Some are still sucking their thumb, which is fine. They can do that, right? But all the way up through junior high and high school. And junior high and high school, those kids are rough, man.
Yeah.
Not always, right? So
No,
let me qualify that. But just generally speaking, that's a hard time, right? Kids are starting to grow up. They're trying to figure out how they navigate life without their parents, right? They're going through puberty, and you have teachers who work with them. So my daughter teaches junior high. She's really, really good with the kids. But I will say she sometimes has 12 and 13-year-olds trying to hit on her. Like, that's not appropriate. And she will tell them that is not appropriate.
No, it's not.
Right? I'm in my 20s. You are a decade or more younger than me. Right?
We're also learning that from these studies that certain groups of teachers, certain categories of teachers were more likely to work part-time and summer jobs outside of the school system. This included teachers with less experience, the teachers who don't have as many years of practice, younger teachers who don't have a bachelor's degree. These groups generally had lower base salaries, so they had to get more jobs. For example, 35% of teachers with 1 year of experience or less worked a non-school job in the summer. That dropped to 20% among those with 2 to 4 years of experience, and 13% with those with 30 or more years of experience.
Right. So your income goes up, right, as you have more experience, right? Sure. If you can stick it through that difficult time. So again, we're doing this series of back to school topics and questions, and tomorrow we are going to be talking about the teen center up in Davis County. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about cell phone bans this week. We're going to be talking about a number of issues that parents and teachers are concerned about as hundreds of thousands of kids go back to school.
Back to school week on
Inside Sources.
When we come back, in an open favor to President Trump, Texas wants to change congressional boundaries to give the president 5 more Republican seats. Texas Democrats say not on our watch. When we come back.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top local story this hour. A new fire burning near Tibble Fork Reservoir is estimated to be about 1 acre in size right now. Fire crews started building fire lines as soon as they were alerted to the fire, and campgrounds were evacuated early this morning. A Forest Service fire crew is managing the attack to get the fire out before strong winds pick up later today. The Monroe Canyon fire continues to be a major problem for firefighters in central Utah, burning thousands of more acres this weekend. The latest update has the fire at well over 61,000 acres burned. There are currently over 1,500 people working to stop the fire. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Federal officials are searching through the woods in Montana for a suspect who police say killed 4 people in a shooting last Friday.
Hundreds of federal and local officials converging on the mountains in search of Army veteran Michael Paul Brown, who they say is armed and extremely dangerous. Authorities say 45-year-old Brown lives next door to the Owl Bar in the small town of Anaconda. They say Friday morning around 10:30, he walked in and shot 3 patrons and a bartender.
ABC's Trevor Alt reports that anyone who sees the suspect is being told to call 911 immediately and avoid contact. Your money at this moment, the Dow up 475 points, over a full percent to 44,064. Coming up, the state is under another red flag warning. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time 10:31.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Back to school shopping. It's basically like a sport. The kids want new shoes, new jeans, new colors, new everything. And honestly, they're not wrong. They've grown. Their style has changed, and apparently, last year's hoodie is embarrassing. So we make a quick trip to the mountains. Junction Commons Park City has cooler temps, fresh air, and way better deals. Sneakers? We hit Nike Factory, Adidas, and Vans Outlet. Clothes? Abercrombie & Fitch, American Eagle, Gap Factory, J. Crew Factory, Buckle, all the brands they want without draining my wallet. And while they're shopping, I get a little mountain escape, a latte in hand, cool breeze, and a few peaceful moments to myself. Honestly, it's the kind of back-to-school tradition I can get behind.
Junction Commons Park City. Cooler temps, hotter deals, and one very relieved parent.
Tonight on KSL, looking for back-to-school bargains? Inflation Buster Matt Gephardt does his homework.
I don't think we're going to beat $5.
See where prices are up where they're down, and some surprises.
Terrific. We do the shopping so you can ace your back-to-school budget.
Gephardt Bus Inflation. Back to School Edition, tonight at 10 on KSL TV and the KSL Plus app.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's MyStyle checking account. Let's check in again with Heather Kelly.
We still have pretty good speeds all across the Wasatch Front and no accidents reported right now that the earlier one on I-215's eastbound has cleared. But you still have plenty of lane restrictions, and the one southbound I-15 between Kaysville and Farmington is slowing people down just a bit. You're also going to see lane restrictions in Provo Canyon as you make your way between Bridalveil Falls and the Sundance turnoff. And just a reminder, anyone in American Fork Canyon, the turnoff to Tibble Fork Reservoir is shut down due to a fire that is closed both directions through there, so you won't be able to head up there for recreation. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, a high of 97 today in Salt Lake City, and expect more gusty winds. Those winds are expected to calm a bit tomorrow in northern Utah, but remain strong in central and southern Utah. Right now it is 88 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
President Trump has told the Texas legislature that they need to change the maps, change the way that the state is divided so that they can get a few more districts with the upcoming midterm elections coming.
On Texas, how many more seats do you want the Republicans to draw? 5.
5 more seats. That's a lot in a closely.
They're not even trying to hide it, right? And this is it seems so weird to me as a former lawmaker, right? Like, you may behind the scenes have some favors going on, right? I don't know, but yes, I do know. Actually, it does happen. But here you have the president of the United States telling Texas, give me 5 more Republican seats. Why? Because the margins are so close in the U.S. House, right? And they're just like, okay, we're going to give them to you. And then Texas Democratic lawmakers actually had something to say about that. And what they had to say is bye-bye.
Yeah, and a number of them, dozens of them left and are now in Illinois. Why they go to Chicago, I don't know, but that's far away from Texas. Yeah. And the significance of that is important because they're not there to vote.
Yeah, that's right. So they lose their quorum. So they're trying to call a special session today. They want to vote on it. The Republicans have the votes, but they have to have a quorum. They have 150 legislators that have to vote on it. They need 100 of them there. And so 50 have left, which breaks their quorum, right?
Yeah. So the Texas governor is actually threatening to oust some of them if they don't return, have them impeach. I don't know what he's going to hold a special election for their seats. But a number of them have gone so that the Republicans can't vote on this gerrymandering thing, according to the governor's own special session that he called to get this done.
Right.
Typically, we think of redistricting as something that occurs after
once a decade.
Census.
Yep.
And not that that's set in stone, but that's usually when it occurs. We don't have these midterm elections are coming. Let's
redraw the lines.
Let's redraw the lines.
Yeah. So we actually have News Nation's White House correspondent Joe Khalil on the line with us, who can really help us understand what is going on. Joe.
Hey, well, I think you guys put you hit it on the head there. Democrats have left. State Democrats have left the state of Texas so that they can deny a quorum for this special session. Effectively, you need a minimum number of lawmakers there to vote on this plan that the White House has been pushing and Greg Abbott, the Republican governor, has been pushing to redistrict and change their maps to make them more favorable to Republicans. And if he doesn't have a minimum number there, they cannot vote. They cannot move forward. Now, obviously, this isn't sustainable. At some point, these 57 or 60 Democrats who left are going to have to come back, and they're going to have to vote on something. So it's I think a gambit that delays for sure. The special session only lasts for a couple of weeks. They could wait till the whole thing is over, but then Governor Greg Abbott can just call another special session. The reason they've left the state is interesting. It's because if they're in the state of Texas and they're not showing up for session, technically Greg Abbott can issue an arrest warrant and marshals could go and arrest them, and he is within his rights to do that. That's why they have to physically leave the state to do this. So long as they're somewhere else and not in Texas, there's not a risk of that. But, Illinois and New York, those are two places where those governors have said, if Texas goes, we're going to consider redrawing our maps, too, to give Democrats an advantage and sort of blunt the impact of Republicans in Texas.
So, Joe, they can write out this special session, I suppose, which is 2 or 3 weeks now down the road. But there's nothing to prevent the governor from calling another special session next month when they all get back into the state, is there?
And I think that's likely what will happen. If Democrats decide, you know what, we're not coming back for the whole session, whenever they do come back, Greg Abbott will just call for another one. I mean, again, I think, it's an effort that it isn't totally futile or useless, because I think what it does is for Democrats, it draws attention to the issue on a national scale. I mean, they're going to places with big media markets in New York City and Chicago. So, you're going to get the eyeballs and you're going to focus the nation's attention on it, I think. But yeah, I mean, at some point, they're going to have to come back and Greg Abbott can just say, all right, you're all here. Special session. Let's vote on the maps now.
So I have another question for you, Joe. I understand that the governor has issued a very sharply worded letter to these Democratic lawmakers. Could you share with our listeners what he threatened them with?
So he effectively did threaten that he might use his authority under a previous decision that was made in the Texas court system, that he could potentially remove them from their seats if they continue with this, will continue not showing up. Now, I've heard some legal scholars, I am not a lawyer, say that he may be reaching on that a little bit, that he may not have the ability to just dismiss them. They're duly elected members of the state legislature. He also says that if they are fundraising because they're missing out on their pay when they don't show up, a lot of them have said that they may end up fundraising for the travel and the expenses of doing this, leaving the state. He said that he may even seek to file charges on bribery. So again, I don't know that he legitimately has the authority to do those things, or if the law is on his side, I should say, with that kind of effort. But, it's clearly a way to just express some frustration from the governor and say, there may be consequences to you doing this.
Joe, do we know whether Texas, like Utah, typically does redistricting consistent with the census every 10 years? And if so, could there be a challenge to this one saying you're clearly doing this for the wrong reason at the wrong time?
So objectively, they are doing it for the wrong reason at the wrong time. Like, the redistricting is explicitly meant for population changes every 10 years. And Texas does do that every 10 years. So this is sort of no one's even trying to hide it. Like, the White House has come out, President Trump has come out and said, let's do this so that we can net 5 Republican seats, which, again, not the reason for redrawing maps. But gerrymandering happens. Democrats do it. Republicans do it. The difference is the fact that they're doing it in the middle of the decade is just sort of an explicit attempt to keep the House for the next 2 years. And, bigger picture here, if Democrats do win the House back, that probably means life is a lot harder for President Trump. Not only does he not get any of his legislation passed, that's say goodbye to that, but there are also likely going to be investigations led by Democrats in the House with subpoena power. So they would, there will for sure be an Epstein investigation. There will probably be several other investigations into President Trump's crypto business, into the Qatari jet that the White House has procured for, a gift, but is going to put close to $1 billion of American taxpayer money into it. So all of that is now on the table if President Trump sees Democrats take the House back. And so there's an incentive there, bigger picture to try to keep the Republican control over the House.
So you mentioned a couple of states that are Democrat controlled right now that would be considering maybe doing something similar. Is there any kind of chatter about how many seats Democrats could potentially do if blue states start redistricting also?
Yeah, and that's where it gets tricky. California says there could potentially be 4 to 5 seats there, which if that's the case, they could neutralize the Republican advantage in Texas. New York, I think, is a little bit trickier because of the way that districts are, and sometimes this stuff backfires. I mean, imagine even in Texas, this could really backfire, where in order to make a blue Democratic seat red, you basically need to take safe red seats that are, let's say 70% Republican, so safe for Republicans running there, and put Democrats into those districts. So all of a sudden your safe 70% Republican district becomes 55% Republican. And there is a risk that in a bad year and the right candidate, a Democrat could actually flip what was otherwise a Republican seat. So when you consider that, all of a sudden, no matter who's doing it, whether it's Democratic, Illinois, California, New York, or whether it's Republican, Indiana, Missouri, Texas, there is a risk that you sort of dilute what is already a pretty strong Republican district. And they certainly, I think, are aware of those risks.
So just one quick final question. When they do this redistricting, assuming that eventually they do pass it, would the first vote be the midterm election next year in 2026?
Yes. Yeah. So they would redistrict it now, and then the first impacts of that would be in 2026. Again, which is no one is hiding the fact that 2026 is what this is about.
Yeah. Yep. Wow. Thank you for joining us. We've been speaking with Joe Khalil from News Nation. He's the White House correspondent there.
Boy, and if Texas does that, will other states do the same thing?
I think for sure.
Yeah.
I think for sure. You open the door and you're going to see this across the country, I think.
Quick question when we come back. Is crime up, down, or stable in the United States? The actual stats might surprise you. That's coming up next. Remember, streaming live at kslnewsradio.com and on the app for KSL News Radio, sponsored by At Your Service Pros. We'll be back.
Have old jewelry you never wear? A diamond that's been passed down but doesn't quite feel like you? At Duke's Jewelers, they specialize in remounting and custom design. Whether it's refreshing a cherished heirloom or creating something completely new, they'll help you bring your vision to life. Bring in your own diamonds, gemstones, or even gold. They'll start with a one-on-one consultation, sketch ideas together, and create detailed CAD renderings so you can see exactly what your new piece will look like. They even offer 3D resin models so you can try it on before it's in production. It's personal, it's collaborative, and it's all done with the quality and care you've come to expect from a fourth-generation jeweler. Visit Duke's Jewelers in Springville, where your old treasures become new favorites. That's Duke's Jewelers. DukesJewelers.com.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio, or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
When it's hot like this, air conditioners struggle to keep up. Parts are under more stress, and sometimes those parts fail.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and no one helps more homeowners maintain and repair their air conditioners than Any Hour Services. As a matter of fact, last year, over 32,000 homeowners called Any Hour Services for help maintaining and repairing their systems. Any Hour Services has over 100 HVAC technicians to help with everything from maintenance, repair, to installing a new system. This summer, there'll be a lot of people told they need to replace their air conditioner, and they'll wonder, do I really need to? If you're told you need to replace your air conditioner and you still have questions, Any Hour Services can give you a second opinion and let you know what options are available. Maybe it just needs a little maintenance or a small repair. Maybe it does need to be replaced, but if you don't feel good about being told you need to replace your air conditioner, don't ignore those feelings. Call Any Hour Services for help with air conditioner maintenance, repair, or to schedule a free second opinion. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home. You were prescribed opioids after the C-section, when Dad injured his back, when your basketball star tore his ACL. Opioids helped with the pain, and you held on to them just in case. But did you know holding on to unused opioids puts your family at risk? Opioids are powerful pain-reducing prescription medicines, but most people who are prescribed opioids don't finish their prescriptions. So millions of unused opioids are sitting in homes across the country. And tragically, more than 100 Americans die every day from overdoses involving opioids. What can you do to protect your family? Remove the risk of unused opioids from your home. Pills, patches, or syrups in drawers, purses, and cabinets, anywhere they might be hiding. To find out how to dispose of them properly, visit www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
When I have an asthma attack, I feel scared.
Prevent your child's next asthma attack. Call 1-866-NO-ATTACKS. Visit www.noattacks.org or call your doctor, because even one attack is one too many. Brought to you by the EPA and the Ad Council.
And expanded Inside Sources.
Okay, so Holly, I've practiced in the criminal defense world or as a prosecutor for 43 years, and I've always thought that crime continues to rise, in part because we criminalize things that weren't crimes before. We tend to write more laws, and we have more police officers, we have more jails. So I have always thought that crime has continued to increase during my career.
Yeah, well, you're wrong.
Not so smart, am I?
No, you are. Of course, you're very smart. But we actually have a really interesting article by Jay Evenson. He's the opinion editor with the Deseret News, and he's in studio with us. He started his article by a pop quiz, right? Is crime in the United States on the rise? So it's an open book quiz. Do you want to talk to us about the open book part?
The open book part. Sure. If you look in the newspapers, and I'm as guilty as anyone, or if you listen to radio or television, you're going to think we're awash in crime, because we've had all kinds of mass killings. I think last Monday, I don't know who's keeping track of records, but in several cities,
right,
there were mass killings. But the truth is, and in politics, good news is often harder to accept than bad news, because we have assumptions. Government's not working right and crime is on the rise. But the truth is, crime is decreasing and at record levels.
So you were talking about, during the break, Jay, the fact that it had continued to decrease for some time, but had a little blip up during the pandemic.
Right. It actually started around 1993. We started to see a decline. And we're talking about major crimes: murder, robbery, sexual assault, that type of thing. And it was a steady decrease until 2020, when the pandemic hit, and then there was a spike. We had about a 30% increase in murder in 2020. And you remember that time we had a lot of protests in the street. There were a lot of efforts to defund police departments. Parts of Seattle were off limits to visitors and police, and I think parts of Portland the same. It was a difficult time, and we stayed up at that plateau for a couple of years, and then we've just dropped. We've gone over a cliff. And in 23, we had a 12% drop in murders, 24, 14%. We're on track right now for an additional 20% drop in the murder rate in the country.
That's actually really good news. What do you attribute this to?
That is the big question.
So yeah, is it nationwide?
It is nationwide, and even in some of our biggest, baddest cities, Baltimore, New York, New Orleans, places you associate with crime. Detroit, crime is down. The obvious answer is that we're getting older. So, there aren't many people my age out robbing banks. We can't get very far, for one thing. And so the cohort, the demographic that causes most crime are the males between about 18 and 30, right? And there are fewer of those than there have been in the past. So that's one explanation. The Biden people will tell you they passed a number of bills while he was in office to give a lot more money to police departments, and police departments are hiring again. The other thing is during the pandemic, there was a lot of frustration. We were stuck at home. We couldn't do things. A lot of people in lower income categories lost their jobs. I mean, you can't work from home if you're in a service industry or you're working for a restaurant, that type of thing. And so there was a lot of anger built up, and then we had a lot of racial tension. You remember George Floyd and some of those horrible crimes. And so that explains maybe why we had a spike. The overall downward trend, the truth is I don't think anybody really knows why we're on this, but let's just enjoy it.
When you talk about downward trends, Jay, and you've mentioned homicides, does the trend include other violent crimes? Is it sort of crime across the board?
Yes. In fact, in the first half of 2025, so aggravated assault is down 5%, sexual assault down 28%, domestic violence down 8%, robbery is down 30%. That's a big number. Carjacking is down 3%. So yeah, it's across the board.
So you mentioned these mass killings. What is actually the risk of that to the average American citizen?
It's pretty low, and I know, and this is not to detract in any way from how horrific those crimes are,
right,
and how random they are, and how they can happen at any time, and they've happened here in Salt Lake City. But Business Insider did a report a few years ago, and they said your odds of dying in a mass killing were 1 in 11,125. Whereas your odds of just dying from a firearm generally are about 1 in 315. So
that's a significant difference.
And a lot of people, they bring up the fact that we own a lot of guns, and I think I said before on this show a few weeks ago, there's about 120 guns out there for every 100 Americans. And the number of gun purchases, though, have decreased since crime has gone down. There were, I think, record numbers of purchases during the pandemic. I don't know. You could argue all day long whether there's a correlation between gun ownership and crime. We probably own more guns than any other country on earth, but crime is going down. That's the fact.
So are we just maybe sensationalizing or covering or bringing more crime to people's attention? Because I'll admit, Jay, before I read this, I just assumed that we continued to increase crime rates, and I guess I'm in the system every day, so you'd think I would know better.
Well, it's natural. I've been in the news business for 40-something years, and news by definition is something that's different from the ordinary. And so, and yes, crime tends to make the front page. It tends to lead news broadcasts. We're interested in that. We want to know about the things that have happened in our community that we should be worried about or concerned about. And certainly, mass killings are horrific, and they deserve to be covered. We need to understand why those things are happening. But you do get a skewed view if all you do is watch the news and read newspapers and want to know what's happening with crime. It does appear as if there's a lot more going on than really is.
So I have a question that might put you on the spot. My understanding of jails is that we have overly full jail and prison systems. How does that fit into anything? Are the bad guys locked up now? Is that why crime's going down?
Well, there is something to that. I haven't looked at figures in a while. I know that a few years ago that was a concern, that we were filling up our prisons, and some states were privatizing prisons because they couldn't afford to build more. We just defeated a jail bond in Salt Lake County last year that would have built more jail space, and yet we're not seeing a spike in crime. So I think there is, some will argue there is a correlation. Obviously, we need to get the bad people off the streets. But that's not the complete answer.
Yeah, and I'll just tell you from my own experience, when you build it, they will come. So we build a new prison out of Gunnison, and this has been a while. We immediately fill it up. Then that's just what happens. We just rebuilt the Utah State Prison downtown Salt Lake instead of out in Draper, filling it right up. And when the Salt Lake County built the Oxbow Jail, we have an overflow. It just fills. So building more facilities, and I guess I'm on my soapbox here for a minute, hasn't seemed to make a big difference because we'd seem to just fill them anyway, and then the crime rate goes the way it's going.
Sure, and nobody likes to see the revolving door. People
Right.
get picked up for crimes, and then they're back out on the street later on that night. So there are arguments on both sides of that, but the good news is crime is down. Let's focus on that and hope that it continues.
So let me just ask you this really quickly. What about immigration? Because that was part of the conversation, right? It was immigrants who are causing all this crime. I don't think the data supports that.
No, it doesn't support that. And President Trump has tried to take credit for this drop in crime by saying it has to do with him cracking down on immigration. Well, there's a timing problem with that, first of all, because, as I said, this particular trend started in 23 when Biden was president. So it's a continuation of that. And most studies that I've seen show that that undocumented immigrants are not causing a lot of crime. They want to stay in the shadows and not be found. It's homegrown. It's native homegrown Americans who are causing the majority of crimes in this country.
Yeah, thank you for joining us today. So,
That's
Greg,
an interesting article. I really enjoyed that.
it is. And that was welcome news. And unlike the welcome news that crime is down, the news that job openings were down was most definitely not welcome news by President Trump, who fired Erica McIntarfer, the director of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And when we come back, we'll be talking with the professor of economics on how those job stats are collected, what her role is or was, and what this firing means to the economist community. So stay with us on KSL News Radio, and you can stream us on the KSL News Radio app, sponsored by At Your Service Pros.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
11 a.m. at KSL News Radio. I'm Alexandria Bonilla. KSL's top story this hour. Roads are closed in American Fork Canyon while crews respond to a fire near the Tibble Fork Reservoir. Campers were evacuated early this morning. It's not large, but winds today are a big concern. We're also hearing reports of another fire, this one closer to Sundance. The Utah County Sheriff's Office says it was started accidentally by a construction crew. It has since been put out. And a man has died while trying to break a speed record at the Bonneville Salt Flats over the weekend. KSL News Radio's Adam Smalls has the details.
Officials say 60-year-old Chris Roski was attempting a speed record when he lost control of his vehicle at the 2.5-mile mark. We're told medical professionals treated him at the scene, but he passed away from his injuries. We've learned on social media Roski was the driver of the latest version of the Speed Demon, which advertises as the fastest piston engine wheel-driven car in the world. The Speed Demon team posted after the crash saying they are devastated.
The crash is under investigation. Speed Week is expected to continue as scheduled at the Salt Flats today. And our top national story this hour from ABC News, Texas state Democrats are standing firm on their decision to leave the state to keep a new congressional map from going through. The legislature needs a quorum to approve the map, which would create up to 5 new Republican seats. The Texas governor is threatening to remove those Democrats from office if they don't return by 3 p.m. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 540 points. Coming up, hot and windy is the name of the game. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
If you need new windows and you live in Utah, there's only one choice. There are other window companies, but they're more expensive and their windows aren't made in Utah for Utah's ever-changing climate. Advanced Window Products has been building state-of-the-art windows right here in Salt Lake for 39 years. And since they're the factory, they cut out the middleman and you save 30, even 40% on new windows. Plus, right now as they book for fall, Advanced Windows will give you $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. They build the windows, install the windows, and guarantee them for life. And since they're right here in Utah, if you have a problem years from now, just call them. They'll come over. Advanced Windows offers 0% financing, buy now, pay later. They're affordable. Get your new windows and get the energy savings before we get to winter. $2,500 off. Call them, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindows.com.
My perfect day has sand, salt water, and friends. But my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can take me out of the moment. Now I'm all in with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi. Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, most people saw 90% clearer skin, and many were even 100% plaque-free at 4 months. Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis. Visit Skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Why settle for a basic night out when all tickets for Utah Symphony and Utah Opera performances are now on sale? And for a very limited time, premium main floor seats to most performances are $35 or less. Enjoy splurge-worthy nights without the splurge with events like the music of Phil Collins and Genesis, Utah Opera's The Shining, and Carmina Burana. Don't wait. Prices go up after August 15th. More at usuo.org/August. Subject to availability and restrictions.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account. Here's Heather Kelly.
We don't have any crashes reported along the Wasatch Front, and you have pretty good speeds on the major freeways. Lane restrictions may slow you down from time to time, especially on SR 36 coming out of Twi'lek County. Right now, we have a few brake lights southbound I-15 between Kaysville and Farmington, where the right lane is blocked with the orange construction barrels. But things are looking pretty good on the east and west side belt routes and through Parley's Canyon. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Sunny and windy today with a high of 97 degrees. Tomorrow, expect some haze with that sunshine and a high of 94. Right now, it is 89 degrees and partly cloudy. I'm Alexandria Bonilla from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
What's that old saying, Holly? Don't shoot the messenger?
Ha.
Well, President Trump is defending his decision to fire the top official in charge of the jobs report, claiming that she doctored the numbers. Here's ABC's Mary Bruce.
President Trump pledging to announce a new head for the Bureau of Labor Statistics after he fired Commissioner Erica McIntarfer on Friday, claiming without evidence that the latest jobs numbers were manipulated to make him look bad.
We had no confidence. I mean, the numbers were ridiculous.
But he has yet to provide any concrete evidence of that. The president's top economic advisors adamant Trump isn't shooting the messenger in the wake of the poor jobs report. But they say he does want his own appointee in place.
I mean, come on. Okay, so we actually are joined by a friend of mine that I've never met in real life. So there we go. It's Michael Kofed. He's an assistant professor of economics at the University of Tennessee. But one of the things that he also does is he writes for the Deseret News on occasion. And we have been talking over the weekend about this, like the shoot the messenger thing. Welcome to our show, Michael.
Thanks, Holly and Greg. It's great to be on the show.
Dr. Michael, I need to say. Hey, my first question for you is, can you tell us how are these job statistics gathered and what the actual chairman does, like what she actually does or did to release these numbers?
Yeah, absolutely. So the chairman was in charge of what's called the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is under the Labor Department, and they do a lot of data collection. So I, as an academic economist, I've used many of their data sets in my own research to help write my dissertation. But what they do every year, or every month, excuse me, is they do a survey of businesses to try to ascertain how many jobs people were hired, how many people were fired, and then come up with what we call the net jobs report. That happens once a month, and then at the end of a quarter, they actually will do a census because they've had 3 months now, and they're able to say these are the exact numbers we've heard from every company, we've heard from every government, and we can every industry. The problem is we want the best data we can quickly, and so each month is a survey, not a census, and so then they have to project out, given what they saw in the previous quarter, where they think the job market is. The end of the quarter, now they have every number, so they're going to go back and revise some of the earlier months because now they have the real numbers as opposed to the projections from the surveys.
So Michael, those revisions were significant over the last 3 months, weren't they?
They were significant. Now, there's a few reasons why. One reason why is because over the last about decade or so, people don't respond to surveys very much. We hear this from the polling, political polling as well, and so that makes it more difficult to have the exact right number. But also what can happen is we can overshoot or undershoot on the projection if something dramatic happens in the economy that was unexpected. So, for example, if the economy suddenly becomes better, we might underestimate how many jobs were created that month and then have to move it up to a revision. If the economy starts to crater, then we might overshoot because the previous month things were good. And so what we really should see this as a sign of is that something is going on in the labor market, whether it's tariffs or other things, that might be causing us to overestimate month by month and then have to make that correction.
So can you give our listeners an idea of how this firing has impacted your world, like the world of economists? Like, what's the discussion going on here? Are people saying, oh, yeah, well, the numbers were bad? Or are they feeling like President Trump shot the messenger?
Yeah, no, in fact, when I chatted and texted with a bunch of academic economists, which is probably the most boring group text ever, but as we're chatting about this, one is that if you look back in the last 30 years, the revisions have actually gotten smaller with the exception of this one because they've actually gotten better and better at their jobs at nailing this. What we are worried about as academic economists is if suddenly the data becomes political, then we can't trust whether the data coming from the government is the actual true data for us to use in our analysis. It's not even academic economists have to worry about this, but policymakers on the state, local, and federal levels might be making things like revenue projections for the state legislatures next session, but also businesses trying to understand the business climate so that they can know if they should hire or let some folks go. So trust in that system is huge. And when we politicize those data, all of a sudden that trust goes away.
What happened, Professor Kofod, with these numbers, though? The revisions were almost like 90% off. They said something like job raise or job performance was 130,000 when it was really 15,000. I mean, how did we get so far off?
Yeah, I think one way that we got so far off is that if you look at the March numbers, the economy and the labor market was quite quick or quite strong with a lot of churn going on. Once we entered this kind of tariff uncertainty, things clamped down pretty quickly, and you also had a lot of layoffs on the federal government sector and state and local. Federal government is also very late in responding to these surveys, which is kind of ironic because it's one sponsored by the federal government. But what we had was a quick freeze of the job market. And so that then said, well, if we're doing some projections based off the spring, summer usually heats up with vacation and tourism. And so since that didn't happen, that left a huge gap down.
So one of the questions that I have is, what will this look like moving forward? Like, how? It sounds to me like you've got to be able to take subsequent job reports with a grain of salt. Is there going to be a lot more than a grain of salt?
So I think from the first orders, there's a lot of professional economists in this office. They all double check each other's work, and there's systems to make sure that the work is done in a professional manner. So, from the first blush, I would still trust reports as they come out. But again, when we talk about firing the BLS director simply because we don't like those numbers, now it starts to inject this uncertainty that we've normally never had before. Countries that done this in the past have usually caused themselves more economic harm than it was worth. For example, Greece, during the Euro crisis of the 2010s, fired their director because they didn't like the inflation numbers that were coming out of Greece. And so what we're worried then about is there going to be a structural break where now all of a sudden the data is not as good as we once thought it would be.
We're looking at the jobless numbers, though, and the rate hasn't increased significantly. In fact, it's remained fairly consistent, notwithstanding these revisions. Is there a trend there?
There could be. I mean, one of the things that we want to look at this monthly job number is that it is still positive. So that means that there are still more jobs being created. They're being laid off. When I've talked to area businesses both in Utah and Tennessee and other states, what they have kind of started doing is they don't want to hire more people because that hiring comes with training costs, and they are uncertain if tomorrow I'm going to have to lay these folks off. But I also don't want to fire people because if the economy goes up or the tariffs get called off, which continues to happen, then I'm stuck with high demand and no ability to meet that demand. So essentially we're just finding a freeze going on. Not a lot of firing and not a lot of hiring on the same side. And that's probably why that unemployment number is not moving as much as you would expect it to do. Because if you look at those monthly jobs data, they're still in the positive.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Thank you for joining us. I hope we can have you back on. I appreciate your time and expertise.
Yeah, and when we come back after the break, something many of us can relate to. A new study shows the average parent feels like a failure 156 times per year.
Is that all?
That's per kid, I suppose. We'll talk about that next. Remember, streaming live at kslnewsradio.com and on the app for KSL News Radio, sponsored by At Your Service Pros. We'll be right back.
Behind the curtain of Utah and Washington politics.
It seems like the federal government is now saying to the states, you have much more control of your destiny.
And expanded inside sources.
And so our legislature is trying to figure out what their boundaries are.
Well, even like FEMA, right?
Yes.
Wildfire disasters.
The all-new Inside Sources.
If we have to pay for it all of ourselves, can we afford that as a state?
Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson, now on 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
Do you know why more homeowners choose Any Hour Services for help when it's time to replace their air conditioners? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and the main reasons people choose Any Hour Services is because of our people, processes, and convenience. People tell us all the time that there's just something different about having an Any Hour Services technician in their home. That's why most of our over 18,000 Google reviews mention our technicians by name. Another reason is our 7-step install process that we call the Any Hour Difference. It all starts with a needs analysis where you explain what you like and dislike about your current system. This helps us design and size a system that fits your comfort and efficiency preferences as well as your home's airflow requirements. As for convenience, most of our installs are completed in one day. We also have flexible, no money down financing options available, even if you've been told no in the past. So if you've been thinking about getting a new air conditioner, call Any Hour Services and schedule a free estimate today. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
You've lived with the pain long enough. The missed meals, covered smiles, the moments you've avoided because of your teeth. If you're living with missing or broken teeth or struggling with dentures, take your life back. Stubbs Dental Implant Center has helped thousands reclaim their health, confidence, and joy with permanent dental implants. What do Stubbs dental patients say?
I'm no longer in pain, and I can finally be myself again after getting dental implants. I just wish I would have gone to Stubbs Dental sooner.
I was at a denture for 10 years before I got dental implants. My life has completely changed thanks to Stubbs Dental.
You know, I hated looking at myself in the mirror. Getting dental implants from Stubbs Dental has been life-changing.
As a 3-time Best of State winner with over 2,500 5-star Google reviews, Stubbs Dental doesn't just fix teeth, they change lives. Visit StubbsDental.com today to reserve your free consultation. A $350 value, completely free. StubbsDental.com.
3 days only, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Save thousands on hot tubs and swim spas. 2 area locations, Salt Lake at Southtown Mall in the Big White Tent, and St. George at Washington Washington County Legacy Park. Major manufacturers liquidation of new 2025 spas, discounted up to 40 to 80%. We have spas to fit any backyard or budget. Free professional delivery, instant on-site financing. 2 area locations: Salt Lake at Southtown Mall in the Big White Tent, and St. George at Washington County Legacy Park. Transform your backyard with a swim spa for the fraction of the price of a pool. The easiest way to exercise or relax in your backyard. Just fill and chill. Shockingly low monthly payments. Don't miss this opportunity to build the backyard of your dreams. See the latest models in person. 3 days only. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 2 area locations: Salt Lake at Southtown Mall in the Big White Tent, and St. George at Washington County Legacy Park. Learn more online at hottubandSwimSpaSale.com. hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Do you know how America became the best country on God's green earth? We made things, from automobiles to airplanes to textiles. We were the manufacturing epicenter of the world, the innovators that every other country turned to. I'm Katie Lyon, co-founder of Allegiance Flag Supply, and I'm here to tell you that the American spirit is alive and well at Allegiance, where we make American flags 100% in America. When you fly your American flag from Allegiance Flag Supply, you're not just honoring our country, you're supporting American men and women who proudly make the highest quality American flags, period. True patriots who put care into every stitch. See our full story at showallegiance.com and learn about our 100% American-based supply chain. Fly your flag from showallegiance.com with pride, because every flag says manufacturing is still alive and well in the U.S. and we are still the greatest country. Save $35 on your American flag set when you go to showallegiance.com.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with a sun protection factor, or SPF, of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. UVA rays age the skin, UVB rays burn, and both cause cancer. But the perfect sunscreen doesn't count if you use it wrong. Don't need sunscreen on a cloudy day? Wrong. 80% of UV rays still get through the haze. Only use sunscreen at the beach? Nope. Anytime you're outside, UV rays attack the skin, so you need protection. And you have to reapply sunscreen every 2 hours. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/sunscreen for more information. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon.
Okay, Holly, I cannot listen to this without feeling like I'm a failure as a parent. Every time I listen to it, I think, oh man, there's some things I should have done that wished I had done things differently. Well, apparently, I'm not alone. A lot of parents look back and think, I'm a failure.
You know, this new study, it says the average parent feels like a failure 156 times a year, which is basically 3 times a week. And my first response really is that all?
3 times a week per kid.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, you always feel like
being a parent is an exercise in humility. I will tell you that, right?
But as your kids get older, you start to realize, and especially for you and I now that are watching our own children raise children, you're like, okay, you're feeling what I felt 156 times a year.
Yeah, what's interesting, so this study is, it's one done by a group that's called Talker Research, and they talked to 2,000 American parents with children age 11 and under, so the younger kids. And one of the things that showed up in this, not only are they feeling, like a failure 3 times a week, but they don't want to talk about it. And one of the reasons is because they tried to tell somebody how hard it was and they felt like they were judged, and so they don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, and hindsight's always 20/20, but you look back on things that you've done and you did and you could have done. And I mean, I work a lot and I worked a lot, and my children called me a workaholic, and at the time you thought it was sort of a badge of honor. But they didn't.
It's not. They don't think it's a badge of honor.
They didn't mean it as you go, Dad.
Yeah. Like, so the reluctance to share, right? 24%, so nearly a quarter, of these parents of young kids felt judged by their own parents. And so you mentioned our role as grandparents now. So one of the things that I have really, really tried to do is not give advice on how to raise kids, right? There's a bazillion different ways to raise your kids well, right? There's not that many ways to do it poorly, although there are some for sure, right? But there's lots of different decisions that parents can make. And I'm there really to be supportive and try to be a fun grandma.
Yeah, I was going to say, how does Grandma Holly compare to Mommy Holly?
Oh,
I
I'm
mean,
very
in terms
different.
Of,
yeah.
Right.
I don't discipline grandkids at all, right? So, so there's no time out for the grandkids. I'm probably the bad grandma who says, "Hey, come over to Grandma's house and we can stay up late and I'll feed you, s'mores and snacks and and then I'll send you back home to your parents."
I think the overwhelming thing that you feel as a parent in terms of your parenting and the things that make you feel like a bad parent, to me at least, were times with the kid, times when you could have been with the child when you weren't, and of course you're dealing with financial issues at the time, and I've got to raise my kids. I want to raise them comfortably. I want to make sure that they have their back to school supplies. I want to make sure that they have what they need. But sometimes they need you. I mean, sometimes they need mom and dad to just give them a hug or to spend some time with them. And just buying them new clothes and making them feel comfortable is great, but there's much more you can do.
Look, sometimes you can't win. So we raised a large family. I've talked about it a bazillion times, but we're also raising a granddaughter, and she's like an only child. And so when I had a large family, I had kids complain that I didn't spend enough time with them individually, even though we worked really hard to make sure there was individual time for everybody. And now I still have this granddaughter who says, "Well, you don't spend enough time with me." And I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot win.
When I was a prosecuting attorney in the early 90s, we were working gangs, and we were going inside and learning so much more about these gangs. And I know this is seeming off topic, but what we learned is that so many of these kids were getting the type of reaffirmation, the
connection,
hugs, the noogies, the whatever you want to call it, from their gang that they needed from mom and dad. And so what else are you going to do? You go home and your parents ignore you, or worse, sort of belittle you, but your homies, your gang members are giving you hugs. They're supporting what you're doing. And I know that's a terrible thing, but it drew a lot of young people into that lifestyle. Of course, the results were often very, very bad. But you look back at the parents, and the parents would come to us when I was a prosecutor and say, why aren't you doing more to prosecute these kids? And I would say, well, why aren't you doing more to love them?
And to be fair, parenting is hard, right? And you can do everything right, and I'll put that in quotes. You can do everything right, and your kids still make different choices, right? And they can be vulnerable to people who prey on them, et cetera, et cetera. But I will say, like, one of the things that I totally agree with in this study is that almost half of the parents that they surveyed, so again, these are kids with younger families, but that parenthood has turned out to be a lot more demanding than they expected. So I have a daughter that has a 4-month-old baby, and she's 29, and she was one of our middle kids, the middle clump of kids. And so she saw a lot of parenting of younger children and helped with younger kids and things. And one of the things that she has told me several times since she became a mom is, I had no idea how much work this was.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, honey.
So then they look back and maybe appreciate you a little bit
more.
A little
bit
did
more.
When,
yeah.
And you try to balance the role of grandparent, because you still want to be a role model, but it's also easy to be the spoiler, to be the the fun. My grandkids call me Goofy Grandpa. I mean, for a reason. It's the guy that's always doing something. I'm sure that their parents are sometimes going.
Right. So I mean, we've talked about the dog story at my house, where I told my kids no for 25 years, and now this younger one comes along and she has a dog, and now we got a second dog, and they're like, "What the heck, Mom?" Exactly.
I have the exact same story. I had no use for dogs, and now I've got two, and my kids are like, "Dad."
Yeah.
What's up?
Look, so this is one of the things too, this poll finds, and it was, for me, this is my experience too. You feel like you've got to have a break in some way. So I was a full-time mom, but I also had things that I did on the side because I had to have some kind of mental break, right? When I say kids will keep you humble, a lot of them just fought me all the time. right? And I learned ways to adapt. You don't tell the toddler, what do you want to wear? You say, do you want to wear the red shirt or the blue shirt, right? And they can pick one, and that makes your life better and their life better. Or you let them pick, and they go to the store dressed as a Disney princess. That's okay too, right? But sometimes you just need a mental break. And this study is finding that people feel like they need at least a couple of times a week where they can get away from those parenting duties. And whether it's work or not work, right, work related. And one of the things, again, that's interesting is that they're really trying to figure out how to manage parenting duties with a lot of times jobs, et cetera, right? And so we have a younger generation where dads are a lot of times are a lot more involved, and yet how do you manage these roles?
Yeah, and thank goodness that parents are becoming more involved and that fathers are becoming more involved. I remember the hardest thing I dealt with and that made me feel like a bad parent more than anything else was putting the kid in daycare so that you could get mom back to work, so you get dad working full time. I mean, even at a young, like, what age do you really give your kid to somebody else to have them watch, especially if the child's an infant? Yeah. And I've always felt like, man, if you could just spend, and I know it's easy for me to say now, looking back, your first 2 years or the first whatever with your child in the home, that's great. But some people just can't do that. You can't afford to do that in today's economy.
It's harder and harder for sure. So one of the things that this report, we're looking at studyfinds.org is where this where the write-up is. But one of the things that it shows is that, look, you just cannot do it alone. And do you remember Hillary Clinton saying it takes a village?
Yes.
And she totally slammed for it, but she was not wrong. It takes a village to raise a child. And she's not saying, I didn't think at the time, and I don't think now, that she was saying, I want you to turf your parenting duties to somebody else completely. What she's saying is we all need to have this support system around us. And remember, when we used to grow up in, farming villages and communities, we all knew each other and we all helped and everybody helped each other. And now we don't have that support system anymore.
Yeah, I think we do a good job in Utah of making families and sort of the village atmosphere helping raise children within the community. One thing that we're dealing with, and this will hit close to you, home to you, Holly, is traffic around the state. A new study is going to focus on Lehigh and to look at the possibilities of creating a new freeway.
It's so needed.
We'll talk about that next. Stay with us on KSL News Radio. Remember, you can stream us on the KSL News Radio app, sponsored by At Your Service Pros.
11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. Police now have a suspect in custody after road rage, gunfire, and a police chase through the streets of Grantsville this weekend.
Police say the suspect is Mark McGahey from Saratoga Springs, and they don't say why the road rage started, but they did write in the probable cause statement that he rammed the victim's car multiple times, drove into oncoming traffic, tried to get the victim and passenger to pull over, but when they didn't, police say he fired a shot right at the driver. He missed, but then got back behind the victim's car, and police say he fired up to 7 more shots. No one was hit, but police booked him in jail for attempted murder, along with a long list of other suggested charges. Randall Jepson, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. As the latest round of President Trump's tariffs prepare to go into effect later this week, some businesses warn American customers could pay more in the coming months.
Procter & Gamble just last week raised its prices this month. Best Buy, Walmart, Dollar General, and Mattel have been talking about price increases, some echoing Walmart, which said the prices of imported items could go up, but they would keep prices, quote, as low as we can. They know that customers want to see lower prices.
ABC Chief Business Correspondent Rebecca Jarvis reporting. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 550 points. The S&P is up 85 points. And coming up hot and breezy today, KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Did you hear?
A recent stash of $10 gold Liberty coins from the 1800s has been found. These gorgeous gold coins are as bright and shiny as the day they were struck in the late 1800s, and less than 200 of these gold coins are available. Coin experts are calling this gold find an incredible opportunity. Call 1-800-917-4635, and you are guaranteed a $10 gold Liberty coin minted by the U.S. Mint in the 1800s. But with extremely limited availability, you must call now. These gold Liberty coins from the 1800s are still in uncirculated condition. That is history you can hold in your hand. To learn more, call 1-800-917-4635. Call now and you'll receive a free American Coin Collector's Bonus Package, a $40 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-917-4635 now to secure your $10 gold Liberty coins dated from the 1800s before they sell out. That's 1-800-917-4635.
Jim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. I want to tell you about our famous "You Don't Need a Warranty" warranty. That's right, it's a warranty you don't need, but we give it to you anyway. Let me explain. Most warranty problems for siding, gutters, and windows are caused by not installing stuff right in the first place. If you rush the work, cut corners, or use subpar materials, you're just begging for problems later. At RGS Exteriors, we don't tolerate careless workmanship. We slow down, focus on every detail, and use only the best materials. We prevent warranty work by doing the job right in the first place. That's why the 10-year everything guarantee we give you is also known as our "You Don't Need a Warranty" warranty. We absolutely will be there if you need to use it. But honestly, you probably will never have to. Done right the first time. That's the RGS way. For siding, gutters, and windows, call 801-280-3110 or visit us at rgsexteriors.com.
My perfect day has sand, salt water, and friends. But my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can take me out of the moment. Now I'm all in with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi. Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, most people saw 90% clearer skin, and many were even 100% plaque-free at 4 months. Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis. Visit Skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account. Here's Ricky Meese.
Nice and quiet on the Valley freeways. We do have a crash being wrapped up in the final clearing stages at Main Street 1800 South. Don't forget, another day of road work in downtown Salt Lake City, and that means lanes blocked and lane shifts. Watch for those signs. This is north and southbound 4th West between 3rd and 5th North. Common Spirit hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advanced health care in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
A high of 97 today with mostly sunny skies and some breeze. Tomorrow, hazy sunshine and 94. Right now it is 90 and partly cloudy. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
The city of Lehi, Utah is one step closer to receiving $2.5 million from the federal government for a congestion study. What's going on out there?
So,
besides the obvious, I drive through there every once in a while and it gets backed up.
So if you remember, Utah County, especially on the other side of Utah Lakes, so we're talking the Saratoga Springs, the west side of Lehi and the Eagle Mountain area.
Eagle Mountain,
that's where a lot of the growth is occurring. In fact, it's one of the highest areas of growth in the state of Utah. So as you can imagine, transportation can be an issue. And there are more people than there are spots on the road to be able to get from that area onto I-15 to either go north or south for work. And so it's one of the, No, 100% to avoid that area during any kind of rush hour, because I'll just be sitting there for what feels like forever.
Right. At KSL News Radio, Britt Johnson has more.
Lehigh Mayor Mark Johnson says east and west traffic has become more and more difficult.
Everybody's really upset at the traffic congestion. I get it. I have to experience it as well. And it is really, really difficult.
Some roadways are carrying tens of thousands more trips each day than they're designed for. So a new freeway is one of the best options to deal with this.
There's only so much we can do without building new roads.
The House and Senate Appropriations Committees recently approved $2.5 million for a critical congestion mitigation study in Lehigh. This will help the city plan for the best locations and options for new roads. Britt Johnson, KSL News Radio.
So are we talking east-west?
Yeah.
Because we have Pioneer Crossing and...
That's one.
What is it? The Alps
Mountain. I think it's
the one that goes out to Alpine Highland.
That one's a different one. So the Alpine Highland one, it does go east-west, but it goes to from I-15 towards the east, right? But we're talking ones that go from the west. So I guess it's west-east. It goes from the west out to the east. So I take SR92, which is also Timpanogos Highway, every day to come to work. And that one, it can get congested for sure, but it is not nearly as bad as the ones coming from the west side of Utah County trying to get to I-15.
Mayor Mark Johnson says their goal is to build a new freeway along with other roads.
That will primarily carry most of the traffic from Eagle Mountain and Saratoga Springs west of us and get them through Lehigh without causing additional congestion in our city.
And I can understand that, having gone out that way. When you get out to Eagle Mountain area and coming eastbound, trying to get on the freeway, it can be real difficult because there isn't a really, and I may be wrong, but it doesn't seem like there's a real straight shot sometimes.
Pioneer Crossing is the best, and that I think right now that they have. They also have 2100 South, which is just south of the point of the mountain to come across. But one of the issues that one of the issues that you can see, or that I have seen, is that again you get these clumps of traffic that just become super congested. And so I know one of the things they want to look at is, can you do like rush hour traffic lanes, additional lanes during rush hour on Pioneer Crossing? It feels like a relatively new development, because when I was first driving Eagle Mountain trying to get over to I-15, I would have to go through Lehigh, the city, and it would go down in places to one lane and then go through like downtown, and you have to slow down to like 20 miles an hour or something.
Yeah. We're talking about a $2.5 million study from the federal government to talk about congestion. I don't mean to downplay that, but we know that there's congestion. I don't know that the study is as important as what we're going to do about it, and I suppose that's what the study's all about. Right. But you kind of wonder, hey, we've got a problem out here. Let's figure out how we're going to fix it.
Well, they know that, and that was one of the things that we just heard Britt Johnson talk about, is that they're going to look at what are some of the best options, right? What's workable? Can you expand those? Can you actually create a freeway? We still have on and off with like traffic lights and things. So you remember Bangerter Highway when it first opened? It was slower than it is now, I would say, right? It still had stoplights, and it still does, but it has become faster and faster as an option. So I would suppose that they're going to look at items like that.
Yeah, Lehigh Mayor Mark Johnson spoke in more detail to what areas this funding is actually targeting.
Pretty much every day, every work day, we have level of service failures on our three routes that are south of, in our south end of town, or serve the south end of town. Main Street, as an example, Main Street is carrying about 24,000 trips a day, and I think it's designed for about 13 to 14,000 trips a day. Pioneer Crossing, it goes into a level of service failure every morning and every evening due to transportation. And then we have another corridor south of there. It's 1900 South, which connects to Pony Express going west. That's a very small two-lane road, at least the portion that goes through Lehigh. It actually terminates, and you have to turn, and it ties into Pioneer Crossing. So we know we need some additional transportation corridors on our south end of town, and that is what this funding is targeting.
So one of the things that's interesting is there was a proposal really UTA and the Utah Department of Transportation want to do a light rail project to go between Draper and Lehigh. but the mayor is not a fan of that one.
I wonder why. I mean, that would seem to make some sense.
He actually said it's because it doesn't actually solve the problem we're trying to solve. It's not. So you can take Redwood Road from Lehigh and you can go straight into Draper, right? So what he's saying is that's not where the issue is. The issue is trying to go from the west to the east to hook into I-15, right?
Yeah, so building another north-south corridor isn't going
That's
to
what he
solve
says.
the problem.
Yeah, he says it's the wrong plan for our city and everyone who travels through Lehigh. Sorry, we don't need a scenic route. We need a smart one.
Yes, there you go. You know, I remember as a kid, they were building what now we know as the Belt Route. And, they were moving some houses and doing some things out at like 6400 South. And I thought, why? Who's ever going to live out there?
I know.
Nuts.
Okay.
And then years later, we go to Bangor, and now we're talking about the east-west corridor in Utah County. I mean,
I'm going to date myself here. When I was a nursing student at BYU, I had clinicals in Salt Lake County. And when I had to take I-15, it still existed, right? When I had to take I-15 north, they were working on the 106th interchange, and that was 40 years ago.
Yes, there you go. You know, even in Salt Lake County, it seems like the east-west problem exists. I mean, you've got the big State Road 201 that does a pretty good job. Of course, I-80 when you get that far north. But otherwise, if you're in some of these cities, like in the southwest part of the valley, Riverton, West Jordan, South Jordan, it's rough getting.
It's the getting to the highway.
To the highway,
yeah.
And then once you get on there, you're in pretty good shape. But the same is apparently true in Utah County and probably even further down. I think Bangor did a pretty good job. And it's got some of that pressure off, either whether you go east to I-15 or north into Salt Lake City. It seems to have alleviated some of the problems.
I don't know if you remember this, but there was a conversation for a while, and I'm not hearing it right now, but to put a bridge across Utah Lake so that people in the Saratoga Springs, Eagle Mountain area, that could be their direct shot, right? But I'm not really hearing people talking about it right now.
Fortune.
Well, there's all kinds of conversations about what that could or could not do, right? But again, right, that was a conversation, and it's been going on for years because they knew the growth was happening out there. Well, how do those people? There's not a lot of jobs. They're bedroom communities, really. There's some, right? But most of the people who live there work in other places. So how do you get them?
And that area is not going to slow down in terms of growth.
I don't think so.
I mean, Eagle Mountain, Lehigh, and even what's happening further north into Salt Lake County with the prison being taken
moved.
down.
Yeah,
and
at that point.
The growth in that area is going
right.
to be
That's
horrific.
That's right.
This is something that that really was shocking to me. A lightning, shocking, I shouldn't say.
That was good.
A mega flash, we're going to talk about that after the break, hit a new world record after it extended over 500 miles in a matter of seconds. A lightning mega flash. More on that and Gen Z's obsession with lightning hot food after the break.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
You're listening to Leaf Filter Radio, and the guru of gutter protection himself, Chris Coonahan, is here to take your most pressing leaf-related questions.
Hey, everybody, Chris here. I understand we have Ron on the line. Ron, where are you calling from?
Uh-oh. Ron, are you calling from a ladder?
Well, I was. I wanted to ask Chris what I need to do to get my gutters ready to have leaf filter installed.
Oh, Ron, you don't have to do anything. A Leaf Filter Trusted Pro will come out and clean out your gutters, realign and seal your gutters, and install Leaf Filter, America's #1 gutter protection system.
So I didn't need to get on this ladder?
Ron, Leaf Filter Trusted Pros are in your neighborhood and ready to help. Just visit leaffilter.com/deal to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off.
Thank goodness. What was that site?
That's leaffilter.com/deal for your free gutter inspection today. See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. One discount per household.
Make sure your lawn can handle the hot summer temps. A heavy application of Revive Organic Soil Treatment this summer is the protection your lawn needs to stay lush and green. Revive takes water deep down to the roots where your grass can use it now, so you're not trying to fix problems later. Use Revive to keep your lawn protected this summer, so you'll have a lush green lawn when it's really hot. Save water, save money with Revive. Spread it, spray it, use Revive now. It works.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Since 1967, Kimley Horn has been helping communities thrive. As a leading national firm in engineering, planning, and design, they consistently deliver exceptional solutions that drive progress and enhance community development. Kimley Horn associate Amanda Rosano joins us with more.
At Kimley Horn, we're proud to support Utah's growth through transformative projects across multiple market sectors, including sports and entertainment, mixed-use development, higher education, and healthcare. Our team of over 125 professionals in Salt Lake City and Lehigh provides expertise in civil engineering, structural engineering, transportation planning, community engagement, landscape architecture, and more. Our local work includes the Power District Transportation Study, planning services for Ballpark Next, civil and infrastructure design for the University of Utah's America First Ballpark, and planning and engineering for the Point Promenade and event venue. These efforts reflect our commitment to shaping vibrant, connected communities that support Utah's evolving needs. From major event destinations to regional mobility planning, our teams help bring bold visions to life. As Utah continues to grow, Kimley Horn is proud to be your trusted partner dedicated to building a stronger, more vibrant future.
Kimley Horn's dedicated team delivers exceptional service to Utah communities, providing innovative solutions that support growth and improve lives every day. Learn more about their work and team at kimley-horn.com. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
We're giving away a chance to win a free air conditioner to anyone who's commented on our YouTube videos. So go to Healthy Water and Air and comment today. Some restrictions apply, so see YouTuber at yourservicepros.us for details.
When it comes to vaping, the truth can get clouded. So let's make it clear. Vaping is not safe for kids, teens, or young adults. It's just not.
Because vaping can put microscopic particles into your lungs.
And dangerous things like metals and volatile organic compounds into your body.
And nicotine, the same highly addictive substance found in regular cigarettes.
Nicotine can harm a person's brain development through their mid-20s,
affecting learning, memory, attention, and impulse control, and priming the brain for other addictions.
Vaping products also come in kid-friendly flavors that can make them appealing to youth.
And many kids also use other drugs, like marijuana, in vaping devices.
With appealing flavors, high nicotine levels, and lots of promotion on social media,
many kids think vaping is harmless, but it's not.
So talk to your kids about the risks of vaping, because when you talk, they hear you.
For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
My name is Tom.
My name is Cindy.
We give to and volunteer with United Way at our community free health clinic.
We know our time and money are going to the right places.
We don't just wear the shirt.
We live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
When the lightning strikes, well, you know, in 2017, we had a lightning strike that went from Texas, eastern Texas, to almost Kansas City, Missouri. It was recognized just this week as a new world record because it traveled 515 miles. And guess how long?
I don't know.
7 seconds. That's pretty fast.
That's so fast. So this was what was striking to me. That's easy to do, isn't it? This is what was striking to me. It would take 90 minutes to fly in an airplane that long, 8 hours to drive that distance.
Yeah, and it lasted for some time too. It was a they call it a mega flash, which is a single continuous long horizontal flash that can initiate up to hundreds of cloud to ground strikes. Happened on October 22nd, 2017, and it was finally just documented as the world record. It wasn't the world record in terms of the time it spent.
Duration.
The duration, because it lasted for 7 seconds. The longest running mega flash went from Argentina to Uruguay in June 2020. It lasted 17 seconds. Can you imagine a lightning strike lasting 17 seconds?
I cannot.
So you can be talking about it while it's going on. Like, what's going on here?
That's crazy. Yeah. So I did have a question about why it took so long, right? It just took a while for them to really evaluate all of the data that they had to say, yeah, this was one continuous, a horizontal flash of lightning, except it was, 7 seconds even is kind of long.
Right, and it had hundreds of cloud to ground strikes. So if you're sitting in Kansas City, you're looking at the lightning.
You're going to see it coming down,
you see,
right?
oh, there's a lightning strike. Yeah. If you're in Texas, you're seeing the same one.
That's
you just
wild.
see it 7 seconds earlier as it's flying across the planet.
That's so striking.
And it's there you go. It's called a mega flash.
Okay, speaking of lightning hot, and I see this in my family all of the time. Young diners are literally seeking out the heat in food. And a new report from Data Central says in the span of 3 months, restaurant chains launched 76 new spicy menu items to appease the younger crowds.
We got the music going today. Hot,
we
hot,
do.
Hot. Yeah. Well, these hot items are gaining popularity on TikTok with other social media groups, and people just seem like the younger crowd likes hotter, spicier food.
They do. And so remember TikTok and cottage cheese, right? We talked about that. But look, I see it in my own family. I will make food, and I cannot handle spicy. I'm like a 0 or a negative spicy, put sweet stuff on. And one of the reasons I really struggle is I actually have some little micro fissures on my tongue. It's like paper cuts on my tongue, so it really hurts when I eat hot food. But my kids, they will, whatever I make, they don't even taste it before they start smothering it with hot sauce.
Yeah, I've got this neighbor that always serves these hot peppers.
Yeah.
And her husband and I and the other guy in the neighborhood always, okay, well, I'll have one if you do, and I'll have a second one. And then by the time you're at your third one, you're going, why did I do that?
Yeah.
Because your mouth is just on fire.
My kids have done spicy food challenges where like they have to eat something super, super spicy and keep it down a certain number of seconds, right? And then they go and throw up. And it's like, I don't see the appeal.
No, I'm not going to do that.
But here's some examples. So in USA Today in June, the word spicy was mentioned over 40,000 times online. Around 95% of all restaurants now offer at least one spicy item on their menu. And up to 50% of Gen Z consumers eat at least one spicy meal every week.
I wonder what it is about the younger people that they like the spicy meals.
I don't know. They have no taste buds, I guess.
Yeah.
They've burned them all off.
Right.
So, yeah, it's just funny. So Taco Bell has a hot honey Diablo sauce now. Wendy's has a Takis Fuego meal. Do you know Takis? There's those little...
No, I don't.
They're like chips, except they're like rolled in hot chili powder or something, and you eat them. But I will tell you, my 11-year-old eats Dynamites, which are kind of lower on the scale of spicy, but she loves them. She thinks they're fantastic.
Chipotle in June introduced Adobo Ranch, its first new dip in 5 years as a limited time offer. I guess that one will burn your taste buds for a while, too.
In July, so just barely last month, McDonald's had a new series of options to spice up the breakfast menu. So they have a spicy McMuffin, a spicy sausage McMuffin, and a spicy sausage McMuffin with egg.
My wife always assumes that when you get something spicy, it's because it's yesterday's food, and they're just spicing it up, and they're trying to cover it up. So if something is extra spicy, that just means that it was really good yesterday. We'll spice it up today.
That for sure used to be the case. One of the things that you know is that I'm traveling to Ethiopia in the fall to go to my son's wedding.
Right.
So we were there to do an adoption more than 20 years ago, and one of the things that I thought was really funny there is we sat down to eat food, and I knew I needed to have mild food. And so there's on the menu spaghetti with green peppers and salad with green peppers. So I'm thinking bell peppers. Yeah. They were jalapenos.
Yeah, there you go.
That is their mild, right? This is totally mild. I don't know what you're talking about, Mrs. Richardson. Right?
Right, yes, right.
Right. So I'm a little worried. We'll see.
I like
we'll see
spicy food. I just, after I eat it, I sometimes wish I had.
Sometimes you regret
it. It's good at the time.
Maybe it's an age thing.
When you can't taste anything for half an hour, you wonder why you had it in the first place.
Yeah, it's so funny. Okay, so fun facts of the day today. So it is somebody famous's birthday today. Do you have any idea who it is?
I don't. August 4th, 8/4. I have no idea.
So it's former President Barack Obama's birthday. He was born on this day in Hawaii in 1961. That makes him 64 years old, which makes him 15 years younger than President Trump, and he's already been out of office for a little bit.
Right,
Barack Obama.
and he served 2 terms. He's how old today?
64.
Oh, younger than I am.
And
he was a president for 8 years.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, so today is National Chocolate Chip Cookie Day. You don't love chocolate. Do you like chocolate chip cookies at all?
I do not.
Okay.
Not my favorite.
My husband cannot eat chocolate. He developed an allergy to it as an adult, and so we will make chocolate chip cookies but substitute butterscotch chips for him every once in a while. But our family does love chocolate chip cookies, especially with cold milk. And I don't drink milk anymore, but my kids still do. So
I don't like chocolate chip cookies, but chocolate chip ice cream.
Poor you.
Sign me up.
That's interesting. I don't like chocolate ice cream. Okay. On this day in 1790, so August 4th, the U.S. Coast Guard was established, so it's been around for quite a long time. The Red Cross was formed in Britain on this day in 1870.
In Britain?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yep.
I thought it was an American institution.
On this day in 1914, you might remember this, not because you were there.
Close. Right. Thank you.
The U.S. proclaimed neutrality in World War I. So if you remember in World War I, they were like, we're staying out, we're staying out, we're staying out, we're staying out. And then the war came to us and we're like, never mind, we're not out.
So, but on this day in 1914, they said we're staying out?
Yeah.
Declared neutrality.
Neutrality.
I wonder, I'm sure you don't know this, but wonder how many months or years later we said,
it wasn't that many more, actually. So I can look it up, or you can look it up.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you the next one. So this one in 1942, the U.S. and Mexico signed the Mexican Farm Labor Agreement, which is also known as the Bracero Program. So this was the legal program that allowed people from Mexico, migrant farm workers, to come in. They were tracked. People knew where they were. They would come in. They would work for the season, and then they would go back.
We still have that.
We do not have that.
Oh, we have a version of it. Farm workers.
Kind of, with there's some visas, but the Bracero program lasted for 22 years or so, and it was done away with because unions went to JFK, who was president at the time, and said they're stealing American jobs. And now we're in the mess we're in.
Okay, but we do have a workers'
There's a visa program.
Right
there is
now.
a visa program that is kind of similar to Bracero, but I don't think it's working nearly as smoothly as the Bracero program used to work.
And we're certainly not moving in that direction by any
Not
means
right
in
now.
this country.
Yep,
right.
Yep. So on this day in 1944, Anne Frank and her family were captured. And on this day in 1964, 3 civil rights workers were found in Mississippi. Their bodies were found. There were 2 black people and 1 white person, and they were going door to door trying to get people to vote. And they were kidnapped and murdered.
That was an incredible movie made about that called Mississippi Burning.
Yeah, that's right.
With, what's his name? He just passed away. Gene Hackman. Very, very good movie. If you want to watch a great movie sometime, that's one to watch.
I have a quick joke for you.
Absolutely.
Why shouldn't you tell secrets in a cornfield?
I don't know.
Because there are too many ears around.
There you go.
It's a dad joke.
With that, firefighters in Utah County are now working to contain a new wildfire near a popular recreation spot. Is that in...
Till news time, 12 o'clock. This is Midday. I'm Britt Johnson, in for Maria Chaleos today. KSL's top story this hour. Firefighters in Utah County are working to contain